Good morning once more, and thank you for staying with us. Let's settle for the news. And in our first story, the minority in Parliament says the only way investors and the international community will regain confidence in Ghana's economy is if Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is relieved of his duty. Making their presentation before the 8-member ad hoc committee to look into the grounds contained in the minority's motion of censure, Minority spokesperson on finance, Dr. Cassie Latoforson, said the current economic woes of the country were due to the incompetence of the finance minister. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante now reports.
A hearing full of heated arguments and forceful presentations. The minority set out to brand Ken Ofori-Atta as the minister who must not continue in his current role as the finance minister. Counsel for the finance minister, Gabi Asare-Okyere-Darko, objected to the manner in which the minority were handling their evidence.
And it would not be fair to the Minister of Finance to be ambushed and right here without any preparation to start answering questions. The documents are fine, but before we even be able to look into the documents, we want the charges to be complete with the particulars. That's all we're asking.
Minority leader Haruna Idrisu described the minister as incompetent, the sole reason for country's current economic predicament.
2017, $1 was to 4.2 Ghana cedis. Today, $1 is 15 Ghana cedis. That has meaning for businesses in Ghana. The cost of doing business is unacceptably high for businesses. The pharmaceutical industry is complaining because it affects their imports and they are made to pay more. The depreciation of the cedi has affected even Makola women who cannot trade effectively.
Dr. Cassie Latoforson said the minister had breached the fiscal responsibility law and has also misreported data to Parliament.
So if you breach it by 1 percentage point, then obviously the vote of censure may trigger. What we have seen is that over the years, even though the minister responsible for finance has been presenting some economic data to Parliament, in the year 2018, Mr. Chairman, you can see it on the board, our minister responsible for finance and the government had said to Parliament that the fiscal deficit was 3.9% of GDP. In fact, in the year 2018, the reason why they said it's 3.9% of GDP was that a key expenditure worth 9.8 billion Ghana cedis was excluded from the fiscal accounting. They treated it below the line. And this has to do with the financial sector payment. The law was passed on the 28th of December 2018, and by December 31st, 2018, the minister has breached the fiscal responsibility rules already. So 3 days down the line, there was a deficit of 1.8. And that is why we are saying that the trend for the censorship motion moved in the year 2018. In fact, if we were to go by it, somebody could have brought the motion to censure the minister in the year 2018 or 2019 because he breached the rules. And to my surprise, these are rules that were set by the minister himself. When this bill, he brought the bill to Parliament for a reason. The reason is to ensure fiscal sustainability and debt sustainability. If you breach these rules, it has long-term repercussion on the Ghanaian economy. And today, we are seeing what is happening. So, Chairman, I tender this one in evidence. In evidence.
There was an intense back and forth between Gabi Asare-Okyere-Darko, his lawyer for Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, and North Tongue MP Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, who is a member of the 8-member ad hoc committee.
Mr. Chairman, we object to this strongly. If he can hold a press conference to deal with those matters, but I think that we are here for a specific reason. Grounds have been stated. Let's stick to that. You know, we are not here for it's not a political platform to make some political pronouncements. These are serious allegations. Please.
He will not teach me how to do my work in Parliament.
No,
this is Parliament. You won't teach me how to do my work.
Let me finish.
No, he can't come here
and throw his weight about. He can't teach me how to do my work. I take strong exception that I should go and hold a press conference. Please.
I'm only 78 kilos. I'm not going to throw it around.
Please. I won't accept that.
Yes.
And you are not the chair. You don't tell members of parliament what to do.
That's fine. So, I mean, we appreciate the point you make.
I will do my work. I'm not going to hold a press conference. You will not teach me how to do my work.
Well, following those feisty interactions, let's talk about the National Network Coordinator of the West African Network for Peace Building, Albert Yeliang, who has announced that at the back of the conflicts and violence that go on during elections, WANEP is meeting all stakeholders to deliberate on how to maintain peace and stability in anticipation of the coming elections. He says there are some emerging threats that will be possible agents of violence in the 2024 elections. There's more in this report.
During every election, people die due to electoral activities. Statistics have shown that 8 lives were claimed in the 2020 election. To prevent further occurrence, WANEP, in partnership with the National Center for the Coordination of Response Mechanism, organized a stakeholders session to strengthen partnerships for the prevention of conflict and violence in elections in Ghana. Speaking at the multi-stakeholder event, Albert Yeliang revealed there are shreds of threats that have the tendency to breach the 2024 election security.
It is very exciting, the information that is coming out from all these multi-stakeholders, and how the cross-cutting issues that we are already identifying and how we can have the details of these cross-cutting issues and then see, based on that, the strategies that we can develop. Because the next stage that we are going to do here is to come up with some strategies, already begin to tease them out. Then as we go behind the scenes, the consultations with other stakeholders, inform stakeholders, and those agencies that have mandates and capacity to also work in this area of elections and security, that we take all that into consideration in the planning so that when we come out with a strategy that is comprehensive enough and addressing the threats that we have identified. For instance, the National Center for the Coordination of Early Warning, has its data. WANEP has its data. There are other CSOs that have their data. The National Security would also have their data. Everyone, we want to see how do we expand the discussion on the indicators that we need to monitor and then be able to react to the threats that may be arising out of these indicators. So basically, this is a strategy. And one key thing that we want to be engaging on is how does the National Peace Council, for instance, that's the encouragement from this forum, lead discussions that build consensus, and then also informing or communicating to various agencies, election management bodies, so that in their own strategies and implementations, how they will respond to some of the concerns of the stakeholders. Because at the end of it, we want a peaceful 2024 elections, despite the challenges. Then we'll say, yet again, Ghana has done it.
Speaking to JoyNews, some stakeholders who were present shared how they intend to ensure peace and stability in the coming election.
There are several proposals to be considered by the Electoral Commission, and the Commission is actually looking at all the proposals that came after the 2020 elections. And last year, we had a meeting with the political parties, and one of the proposals that stood out strongly has to do with the closing time, which Commission, through engagement with its partners, the political party and the civil society organizations, arrived at 3 p.m. And the thinking is that if closing can be done at 3 p.m., it will give a lot of time for the counting of the ballots at the polling stations and also the counting at the collation centers, where we have all the polling station results in each constituency going to the collation center. So counting can be done early.
Now, Director of the Akakpo Psychiatric Hospital, Dr. Kwejo Mafo Obeng, is asking government to see mental health as a national security issue. Speaking of the handing over of a refurbished male ward of the hospital by Enterprise Life, Dr. Mafo called for support for psychiatric institutions in the country, as many of such institutions continue to struggle to support mental health patients. There's more in this report.
Those of you on this side of the table and some of you on that side of the table know the deplorable state this ward was in. This was an eyesore, a stain on the reputation of the hospital, and it was where the majority of our male patients were staying.
The director of the Akakpo Psychiatric Hospital, Dr. Kwejo Obima, for shedding light on how deplorable the male ward was.
If you saw the conditions that the ward was in, it will be amazing to you that anybody would come here for any mental disorder, let alone depression, and get well. You know, I think it's a testament to the amount of hard work that the people on this side of the table did, that anybody ever recovered in the structure that was here. So it really means a lot to us that this was the work that was done.
Dr. Mafu indicates that a good working environment contributes to the healing of patients and also serve as a motivating factor to the healthcare givers. He expressed the hospital's gratitude to the enterprise group for being the brain and helping hand behind the refurbishments.
We couldn't even imagine, dream, hope that anything like this could happen here. We deeply appreciate it. People living with mental illness have historically lacked access to care, the care and support that they have desperately needed. And when they have received the support, it has been of insufficient quality. Like I've said before, the state of this ward prior to renovation is a testament to that fact. The fact that anybody was asked to receive care in that environment is a stain on the reputation of this hospital and this country. It must be said, however, that the government has made significant efforts in helping to improve access to mental health service through the Ministry of Health. However, in order for us to make progress in our continuing bid to provide sustainable quality mental health care, we need all stakeholders to come on board to spur conversations and take action on mental health. Mental health is not just a health issue. It's a health issue, it's a social welfare issue, it's a security issue. It affects all aspects of our lives, and all of us are touched by mental health in one way or the other. We all need to get on board if we're going to get the change we need to see.
Group CEO of the enterprise group, Kelly Gajepo, said the project was the largest mental health project the company has ever done. He expressed the pride of the group for its contribution to improving mental health care.
So this hospital specializes in an area which is particularly disadvantaged and especially misunderstood. Many people suffering varying forms of mental health conditions have been largely neglected, and we all know that. Mental health facilities are unable to provide sustainable mental health for patients due to many reasons, including deteriorated facilities, lack of funding, inadequate personnel, etc., etc. In addition to all these challenges, mental illness in Ghana is plagued by stigma that often extends even to the healthcare providers themselves. Thank you for your invaluable sacrifice, Akakpo Director, members of the Akakpo Hospital. It is because of the work that people like you do that make it easy for people like us at Enterprise to meet you at your point of need.
A member of the enterprise group, Fleswood Nate, intimated that the group has over the years shown interest in mental health and has partnered with many companies to support mental health institutions in the country.
The Council for Scientific and Industrial Research will be embarking on research activities to rid the country of soil acidity. The Director General, Professor Paul Bosu, says the move has become necessary as the situation threatens food security in the country. He was speaking at the 273rd Directors Management Committee meeting and staff Durbar at Kwadaso.
Soil acidity has been known to impede crop production as it further limits the availability of nutrients such as phosphorus to plants. Dr. Edward Yabua is Director of Soil Research Institute.
When you have low soil acidity, you realize that the nutrients are not readily available for the crop to take. Even though you supply the nutrients, it's still not available for the crop to make use of. And we are all aware of the primary macronutrients, which we talked about, the nitrogen, the phosphorus, and then the potassium. if these nutrients are even adequate in the soil and you have acidity, the plant is still not able to absorb it. So it's quite important for us to address the acidity problem that is emerging across the country. Plants have a narrow range of pH that they are able to take the nutrients. Anything within the range of less than 4.5 of pH is a challenge for the crops to make use of the nutrients available.
The Director General of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, Professor Paul Busu, hinted at the establishment of the CSIR Endowment Fund to support research activities.
The Endowment Fund, CSIR, our research, is largely funded from external sources. And, if somebody is funding you from outside, you are at the beck and call of his programs and what he can give you and at what time. And so we realized that in addition to what government is trying to put in place by way of the National Research Fund and others, internally we also need to start something so that we'll be able to create a fund that at least support us when we are in a period where we are not getting sustainable funding from donors and other places. So essentially, that's what our idea of a CSI Endowment Fund is about. We're going to launch it next year, and we're going to do everything, donors, philanthropists, ourselves. Some of the monies that we generate from commercial activities, even some of the monies we generate from donors, some of our overheads, we are sensitizing staff, and the goodwill is good, so that we'll be able to build something that we can put down and use the proceeds to support research.
Reporting for JoyNews, Kwesi Debra.
Well, there's a question. Does the Member of Parliament for Adansia Sokwa, Kobina Tahir Hammond, buy fuel or not? 2 weeks ago, he announced that he nearly fought at a fuel station because of the high fuel cost. At a committee hearing, a motion of vote of censure against the finance minister, he said he did not buy fuel. Jojo Kobina has been wondering which of the statements citizens should take seriously.
To say that high fuel cost in Ghana is becoming unbearable is an understatement. Diesel and petrol are the two key drivers of Ghana's current inflation rate of 40.4%. Inflation for diesel is 155.6%, which is 4 times the average inflation. Petrol is now 111.9%. That is about 3 times the average inflation. That is the main reason why transport fares are up. It also accounts for the high cost of groceries and other goods. The impact of high fuel cost is being felt in the pockets of many Ghanaians.
We have to start working because any day, any time, the fuel price is going up. And right now, we don't know what to do now. So we have to start packing our cars and start working.
My transportation cost me 25 cedis a day. Before, about 15 cedis. So how do you survive? When the work comes, it's like there is pressure on you, but when it's gone down, it's all, or when you're done with that, it's all. You spend all your money, you can't even buy anything. You can't even save because
So when MP for Adansia Sokwa Katie Hammond addressed the media in Parliament recently that he nearly picked a fight with a fuel attendant, many Ghanaians felt that at least members of Parliament were also roasting in Ghana's economic heat.
I went to the garage, pumped the fuel into the car. The bloke came up and gave me a bill. It was almost a third world war at the garage, at the station. Why is he giving me this? He said just yesterday the price of diesel, the price of super moved to what the price of diesel used to be. Diesel is now 20 whatever. I was about complaining to a colleague in the profession a day after, and he said to me, don't worry about that. It's going to go to 23 this evening. And it's a particularly difficult situation. What is it that led to this? What is to be done? It's a difficult situation.
However, at a committee hearing a motion of censure against Finance Minister Kenny Foriata, Kobina Tahir Hammond made a U-turn.
Chairman, on hardship, I'm sure you yourself, you pay for fuel, you buy fish.
I don't buy fuel, so don't talk about it. I don't buy fuel. I don't have a car, I don't buy fuel.
When we allege here that there is excruciating hardships and people...
This is a departure from his first statement.
The bloke came up and gave me a bill. It was almost a third world war at the garage, at the station.
I'm sure you yourself, you pay for fuel, you buy fish.
I don't buy fuel, so don't talk about it.
So does Katie Hammond buy fuel or not? Or could it be that he just started using an electric car? But he said he has no car. Did he sell his car? Or was he just kidding? Jojo Kobna, Joy News.
Well, on that very interesting note, we cap off at the AM News. Coming up next, the News Review. Joining me, Dr. Kwame Asante of the University of Ghana. Do stay. Hello, there you are, and here I am. Well, we're getting into the newspapers now. We're joined by Dr. Kwame Asante, who is a political scientist, director for the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. But we also have in the studio, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the fine, precious, international. Give them the titles. Give them the titles.
I am an international industry player.
International industry player.
Yeah, and a former entertainment industry player. But now I am an international current affairs industry player.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then orange-looking one.
An orange-looking one.
A deep shade of orange.
Yeah.
That's a lovely outfit.
Thank you.
You know, she's been finding wahala for me because now people, and I'm going to say this one, even the nails, is that orange nail polish?
No, that's red.
That's red?
That's red, yeah.
Okay. Looks like some blending going on. Today we decided to do different things.
Way different.
I'm doing different shades of blue, and you're doing...
Which is very nice. I like it.
Thank you. Hey. I'm learning from you.
You're not learning from me, please. I beg you. How are you? Are you okay?
I'm okay.
Yeah?
It was okay. A restful night.
A restful night?
After my headaches 2
days ago, yeah.
I had to, do a lot more resting. It was a bit hectic at the time I was going home, traffic and everything, but I got some good rest. I thank God for that.
What time did you get home? I know you don't want to say it because you told your girlfriend you got home at a certain time and then...
I told whom? I told whom?
Okay, so what time did you get home?
No, it was I think after 6.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
After 6.
All right.
Went through some traffic. Anyway, let's welcome aboard Dr. Kwame Asante, political scientist, director for the Center for European Studies. Doc, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben.
Great.
And good morning, my sister.
Good morning.
She is Mapizzo. We call her Maps for short.
Yeah, good morning, Maps.
Good morning, Doc.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Right. So before we get into the papers, on Wednesdays, we usually let you talk about something that, is of interest to you. And I don't know whether you're going to be talking about the motion of censure or maybe, I'd like to run this by you, even if you're going to share something with us over the next few minutes. Interestingly, I don't know whether you caught the news this morning, but the Member of Parliament for Adanse Asokwa, Katie Hammond, shared with us just about some weeks ago. It was in the news and everything. We've been playing it. He was complaining about fuel prices. He said he had gone to a fuel station, a fuel pump, and that he had basically nearly fought with the attendant because of the prices. And this he said publicly. It was captured by our team, our parliamentary correspondent and all of that. But guess what? At yesterday's committee sitting, the 8-member ad hoc committee, he said, when the minority leader referred to that issue and said that, look, you are even reeling from fuel prices, he said, no, I don't buy fuel and I don't even own a car. We added it to our news this morning. It's so curious. I don't know what you make of it.
It's just unfortunate. I think he has forgotten what he earlier said.
Forgotten?
Yes. So he will be in a better position to explain the differences between the two statements. All right. If indeed he is the one who made the earlier statement, I'm not sure that you want to run away from it. But that is an aside. But even before even pushing aside, you realize that as politicians, politicians are required to, they are seen as role models and their actions, activities, and all that, people learn them. We pass them on from generation to generation to serve as a guide and all that. So my humble, statement to him is that he needs to be very careful about some of the utterances that he makes, and that being an MP, he's a very important person that we want to trust him at all times. Because sometimes I have also a cause for worry when he made a statement that when they boo the president, and he said that that's not Ghanaian. I differ. You know that if you go through the political socialization of this country, you realize that from family to school to peers, when you do things right, they praise you. When you go wrong, boo you, they hoot at you and all that. And that, for me, I realized that he shouldn't have come there at all, because as for booing, it's part of our culture. And when you bring that culture into politics, it becomes a political culture. And the way you look at things will reflect how far you have come. We should be mindful, all of us, that history is nothing but the greatest teacher of all times. It will, it talks about the present and the future and how the two are linked permanently. Always, whatever we decide or whatever we do, history will shed light on us.
Thank you so much for those initial thoughts. Anything else you'd like to say, or should we get into the papers immediately?
I want to touch on the committee sittings.
Okay.
And I'm saying that so far, I think I'm impressed. We have seen in terms of fairness in the sense that natural law requires that whenever you accuse anybody, you give that person a hearing. So the speaker setting up this committee, giving the minister a hearing for people, for the world, for Ghana, for everybody to hear his side of the story with regard to the issues that he's being accused of. For me, that is one of the ethos of every democratic rule. Second is the issue of the fact that he's represented by his council, a council of his own choice. Right. And that is in line with the rule of law, right? The third one is that we are also seeing display of knowledge in terms of, evidence that they are using, papers they are tendering, and the line of questioning. For me, I think that the committee, if they go on the same route, I have no doubt in my mind that they will be able to come up with something that will stand the test of time. I like the way that members have also comported themselves. If you look at the issue before them, the very thorny issue, and sometimes it gets emotional. But the two gentlemen who are the chairpersons of the committee have also acquitted themselves very well, and that been able to bring sanity to bear on the matter. A few instances where there are attempts by people to cross the line, my good friend Ejapa Mesa, a statement that he made and people drew his attention to, he quickly, retracted and apologized. That's a mark of what an MP, and I commend him for that. It is my hope and prayer that they will carry this thing to its logical conclusion, and at the end of the day, we will find permanent solution to this problem.
All right, thank you very much, Doc. Let's get into the papers. We'll start with the Ghanaian Times, and the big story, of course, is at Parliament censure probe. Oforiatta calls for fairness as he appeals for documents to execute the motion. And on page 16, we have SP investigates Ibrahim and others over Galamsey economy. And page 17, Ghana marks symbolic birth of 8 billionth baby at Ridge Hospital. So let's get into the details of some of the story. Well, let's start on page 3, where we are talking about Aisha Huang's case. And according to a prosecution witness, Aisha Huang speaks fluent English and Twi. Now, a superintendent of the Ghana Immigration Service has testified that Aisha Huang, who's facing trial at the Accra High Court for forging a marriage certificate to obtain an indefinite permit, speaks fluent English and Tree. According to him, he interacted with Aisha Wang in English when he personally delivered an invitation letter to her asking for her to come to the GIS office in Kumasi. Now, the invitation, he said, was concerning a news publication that had alleged involvement in illegal mining in 2016. Okay, more of that story. So he said, and I quote, "When the accused honored the invitation during the interview, she spoke in English and responded in English, and she's very fluent in English and even speaks fluent Tree." He continues to say that she didn't give us any indication that she didn't understand. She understood all the information and appended her signature. And we also have, so that's on page 3. And Benjamin, we know that Benjamin and Doc, we know that some of the court proceedings had to be stopped because they didn't have a translator. And now what has come up is that Aisha Wang actually speaks fluent Tree and fluent English. So
I found that interesting, but she's been in the country for quite a long time. That first spell and now, so for me, it's nothing surprising. I mean, P is
very easy to pick up.
It's easy to pick up.
Yeah.
I was looking for a different word, but that's the simplest way to put it. It's
Yeah.
easy to pick up if you're minded to do that.
Yeah. All right. Also, let's go to page 9. World population hits 8 billion strong. Very interesting, Benjamin, because 8 billion people.
Yeah. But the projections are that over time,
today,
this is going to fall. But in Africa, when you look at our dynamics, it's interesting because we have a youth bulge. We're going to have, by 2050, we're going to have a lot more of our population being young people. The question is, how are we preparing for that? What opportunities are we preparing so that the younger generation, very youthful generation, we can tap into that as a country in terms of their youthfulness, their exuberance, their strength, their creativity, and also prepare for them in terms of education, opportunities, and all of that. That is my worry.
All right. Also, on page 16, SP investigates Eddie Boahing. Others are over Galamsey economy. Now, the special prosecutor, Mr. Ajabing, has commenced an investigation into the actions of Mr. Charles Eddie Boahing for corruption in an expose by investigative journalist Anas Aramayao Anas, dubbed Galamsey economy. Now, this followed the referral of the matter to the Office of the Special Prosecutor by President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo through a directive for further investigations. The Office of the Special Prosecutor has promptly commenced investigations into the action of Mr. Charles and any other implicated person contained in this investigative piece. So that's the second story. And the last one from the Ghanaian Times that I will take is COPEC IES projects prices of petrol, diesel to fall, but expects price of LPG to go up. Quick one on that story. Petrol and diesel prices are projected to decline within the coming days, according to the latest checks by the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC. According to the Chamber, petrol prices will likely fall to 16 Ghana cedis 7 pesos per litre from the current average of 17 Ghana cedis 42 pesos. Now, a statement signed and issued in Accra yesterday by Duncan Amo, who's the Executive Secretary of COPEC, said, however, that the price of LPG was expected to be adjusted upwards. We've got 3 stories there. Dr. Sasanti Oforiatta calling for fairness as he appeals for documents to execute motion. We also have Aisha Wang speaks fluent English and Tree. Any thoughts on those stories so far?
I will start with Oforiatta calling for fairness.
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer, but the lawyers will tell you. And then the justice system requires that all, accused persons will be given opportunity to be heard. And that is a function of fairness. And that if you look at what is happening in Parliament, I have no doubt in my mind that they are making the platform equal for all those, for Ms. Oforiatta to be able to have a fair representation.
Yeah.
And you see his lawyer is there. Not only that he's going to also, yesterday his lawyer asked for permission so that he will give him 48 hours to go and study all that have been said, so that he will on Friday and then speak to the issues the way it ought to be. This is part of the fairness. And so far, he has not been restrained as to what he can do and cannot do. And for me, that is what is important. If there is anything untoward, his lawyer knows what to do and he will raise it. But so far, we are gradually getting to the real issues where they are going to discuss them and make sure that they have a fair representation. The issue before the committee is a very important one. So the accused ought to have ample time to be able to do very good work, because failure to which can be, there are always dire consequences and all that.
Yeah.
So when you look at it all in all, I have no doubts in my mind that he will participate fully, and then the process will be fair. If it is not fair, his lawyer will raise an issue about it. I'll go on to the OSP, and there's work on the, Mr. Dubois and all that. It's unfortunate we are where we are now, and I want to commend the president for that decision to terminate his appointment, and then allow investigation to continue. Why it is important for the investigation is that this is an individual enterprise, my good friend Anna's work, and that the state want to come in and also to see whether what my good friend has put out is the real situation on the ground. That is why the matter is before an institution called OSP. The OSP will also look at the facts before him, and then also come out with his decision, and this will become food for thought for all of us. My worry, though, is that if you look at all the things we are talking about every day, we see effort by governments. If you look at the Fourth Republic, efforts to deal with corruption, but we still have corruption rearing its ugly heads within our political system. And it's worrying, because if you look at the money that we lose to corruption every year, a little top up to that money will be enough to save us from IMF, World Bank, support. So it tells us that we have to do more if we really want to ensure that there is effective use of resources. And that also brings me to an issue of indiscipline. We see that time and again, governments are very indisciplined in terms of prudent use of resources. If you look at waste in terms of the size of government, waste in terms of, if you read the Auditor General report and all that, all is not well. And our political actors must be very, very serious about this, because we cannot go on this route all the time, that we rule and there's difficulty, we rush to IMF, World Bank for support for bailout. All right, there is a price to pay for not doing something to arrest the situation. And this is something that I want to draw the attention to. It's not every day that we'll go there, we'll be lucky. A day will come that if we don't take care, we go to IMF, World Bank and say, we are sorry, there's nothing there for us. That is the day that it is about time we took these issues seriously and handled them the way it ought to.
It seems like Doc has frozen. Doc, do we still have you?
Well, it appears his feed has a bit of a glitch.
I'd like to really hear his thoughts on the whole Aisha Huang thing and her speaking, fluent English and Tree, and where that will take the rest of the case. But let's talk about the stories that you have in the Daily Graphic, Benjamin.
Well, let's quickly get into them, but when Doc is back with us, I'd just like to run this by him. So as of yesterday, the average rates that we would see if you wanted to get $1 was 14 cedis, 80 pesos at Forex Bureau.
Okay.
14 cedis, 80 pesos. So 20 pesos shy of 15 cedis.
Yeah.
Yet the Bank of Ghana rate was 13 cedis, 8 pesos. It's not fluctuated much according to the Bank of Ghana's rates. 13 cedis point something, buying and selling. But when you hit the market, the reality is different. Yeah. And this is what business people have told us time and again, that look, you're pegging it like this, but the reality on the market, I don't know whether they're going to shut down all Forex Bureau, like we saw them shut down some 2 others initially. But anyway, that's just by the by. When Doc comes on, I'll have him share his thoughts on that. Let's get into the Daily Graphic now. OSP investigates a Dubois. That story on page 16. Mapito touched on that. Then Ghana Statistical Service and partners celebrate 8 billionth baby. I'll get into a few details of that. Then, support proposal to close polls at 3 p.m. Deputy EC Chair urges political parties. I'm talking about Dr. Bosman Asari. I'll give you a snippet of that. It's 4 days to Qatar 2022. There's also censure motion. Minister counters proponents Friday as 7 grounds laid for removal. Let me start from there. The ad hoc committee tasked to investigate the various allegations to justify the removal of the Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, from her office commenced hearing yesterday with the proponents of the censure motion outlining 7 grounds to substantiate their call to push out the minister to save the Ghanaian economy from further deterioration. The lead proponent, Haruna Idrisu, minority leader, assisted by the ranking member on the Finance Committee, Dr. Kasialatu Forson, supported the 7 grounds with figures from official documents such as budgets and fiscal data series from the Ministry of Finance website to firm up their motion for Parliament to impeach Mr. Ofori-Atta. They mentioned the grounds as conflict of interest, unconstitutional withdrawal from the Consolidated Fund, illegal payment of oil revenue into offshore accounts, deliberate and dishonest misreporting of economic data to Parliament, fiscal recklessness, leading the crash of the Ghana cedi, incompetence and frightening ineptitude and gross mismanagement of the Ghanaian economy. Those are some interesting, allegations, some interesting grounds that have been mentioned by the minority side. But we'll see how things progress as this motion of censure and its debate goes on in Parliament. Let's quickly go to pages 16 and 17 and check out what is there very quickly. Now, where are the pages when you want them? My pizza.
Are you winning there?
Yeah, okay. I'm here now. So we know about the OSP's investigation into a Dubois hen, so I'll not get into that. But the world's 8 billionth human being has been born in Accra, Ghana, and that was symbolic. 27-year-old Philomena Digbe, or is it Dogbe, delivered the bouncing baby girl at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital at exactly 12:05 a.m. yesterday. It was her 4th shot at childbirth after 3 failed pregnancies. Now, Philomena's baby girl, interestingly, came with a fortune of being celebrated as the baby who symbolically marks the 8 billionth member of the world's population. This has been done, I think, since we hit 3 billion, 4 billion, 5 billion. And there's a symbolic, I mean, you can't possibly gauge that it was this person who was, you know, but it's a symbolic act. And this time it was from Ghana. I'll end with this one. Support proposal to close polls at 3 p.m. You know, our elections usually go to around 5 p.m., 6 p.m., thereabouts, 5, 6 p.m. And then unless people are in the queue, then sometimes it is extended even later. Well, the Electoral Commission has urged stakeholders, particularly the political parties, to support his proposal to close the 2024 polls at 3 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. A deputy chairman of the commission, Dr. Eric Bosman Asari, said the proposal to close the 2024 polls at 3 p.m. was to prevent electoral violence and ensure that the results were declared on time before darkness set in, at which point a lot of things could happen. Now, speaking at a multi-stakeholder session to strengthen partnership for the prevention of conflict and violence in elections in Ghana yesterday, Dr. Asari said most cases of violence that occurred in previous elections happened in the dark after 5 p.m., hence the proposal to change the closing time to 3 p.m., which had been captured in its new constitutional instrument yet to be laid before Parliament. What do you make of it?
I mean, if violence is going to take place, violence is going to take place. We've, covered elections, and we've seen some brawls take place at like 3 o'clock or even at 2 o'clock. Maybe somebody was trying to bribe or things were happening at the polling stations. So I'm not sure that the 3 p.m., I mean, it's a measure that can help, but I'm not sure that it would really, really help in making sure that violence doesn't take place at the polling station. So it's a good idea, but I'm not sure. It's like the best way, because what happens to people who will be at work, have to get, you knock off at 3 o'clock, that your poll station is closed, so you don't vote. So like, what does that mean? I think it's also very inconsiderate to some people who won't be able to make it to the voting stations.
In South Africa, what's the practice?
6 p.m.
6 p.m.?
Yeah.
Have you ever voted in South Africa?
No, I haven't.
You haven't?
Yeah.
Okay, but it's 6 p.m.
It's 6 p.m., yeah.
And that has still not changed?
That's still not changed, because usually we don't really, violence doesn't take place at the polling stations, but rather like after the votes have been declared at like various places, so like public places, at the bar or maybe at like some sort of like bars usually, public meeting place, but not ever at the polling station itself. Yeah.
I think maybe we could explore, like in other jurisdictions, early voting and electronic voting. Of course, we've not got there yet, but I'm saying that futuristically. Of course, the services and media, we often vote before the real election. Yeah. I mean, the police officers and all of that, because there will be an action on the day. So that is one aspect of it. But electronic voting, like in the United States, where people even voting by mail and all of that. But the problem is in our system right now, we're not there yet. And that's the issue. Let me just wrap with this. Do we have Dr. Asante back? All right, it appears we still don't have him back. I found this curious. You've been in Ghana for a while, so you should have a take on this. Cabinet has approved a new rent bill and recommended same for the consideration of Parliament. It is expected that soon, Parliament will also commence its engagement on the bill to culminate in its successful enactment. Well, guess what? The Minister of Works and Housing, Francis Asensewach, made this known at a press briefing in Accra last Sunday, and the briefing was to update the media on recent developments in the housing sector. He said the bill sought to ensure that a landlord who demands the payment of rent, quote, in advance for more than 1 month in a monthly tenancy, or a tenancy which is shorter than 1 month, or more than 1 year in a tenancy which exceeds 1 year, commits an offense clearly identified in the bill. In the past, we've had a lot of talk about this, and you shouldn't even pay beyond 6 months and all of that. I'm sorry, it's all been
talk.
Kasa kwa. I mean,
I'm tired.
This thing is a brutal thing that landlords and landladies are using against ordinary people. And especially in these times, it's even more harsh, excruciating.
Yeah.
So all the talk about it, Mr. Asensewach, I'm sorry, let's actualize something rather than, if I were to ask you right now, I don't know whether you're paying not more than 1 year in terms of your rent advance.
I paid, what did I pay? I paid 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah, I paid
There
2
you
years.
go.
So, and that's why I'm smiling,
There you
because
go.
like I'm so over this conversation. Because reality on the ground is that this...
It's like the CD thing. The Bank of Ghana is saying one thing. On the ground,
it's not the same, And another thing is that housing, like we have more people than houses. So houses are always in demand.
Yeah.
So Benjamin says...
If you don't go for it, someone else will.
Benjamin says he won't pay the 2 years. Sharp, Benjamin won't pay, but MAPS will pay because I desperately need a place to stay. Yeah. So this whole rent bill, it really doesn't make sense. It's just all talk. It's all, I beg your pardon, BS, if I'm being very honest.
Well, let's see how... with this bill, let's see how things go. Because, look, from rent control to whatever, housing, we've spoken about this time without number. It still remains same. And I pity those, for example, students and others who sometimes have to come into the country. We are an educational hub for the sub-region. Yeah. People come from Nigeria, Liberia, Gambia, all sorts of places, even outside of West Africa. And sometimes they have to pay through the nose for accommodation. Mind you as well, Mapito, we have some of the highest rent prices, not just in West Africa, not just in Africa, in the world. I remember Michael Blankson, the comedian, American Ghanaian comedian, came to Ghana and said, whoa, what's up? I mean, you're purchasing, even, look, what you use to purchase land in places like East Legon, cantonments, and some plush places, Ridge and all of that, you could use to buy property in the US, in plush areas. How does that make any sense?
So that's what I was telling a friend of mine, that a 1-bedroom apartment here, and not even like a good 1-bedroom apartment, could get me a 2-bedroom apartment in South Africa in a somewhat gated community, in a good neighborhood. So I'm paying like however much I'm paying for 1-bedroom, but if I go to South Africa, I'll get a nice 2-bedroom apartment. So it is terrible. So Mr. Asensewach, please, you are charging in dollars. Like the thing, you see the rent thing, it really upsets me because I've been through the most with this, and through the most and the worst. I've really suffered, if I'm being honest. But Charlie,
It is what it is.
Someone will ask me, say, who said you must come to Ghana?
Who sent you?
Who sent you? Now who sent me?
Yes, you can't put it.
Oh,
Charlie. Please go ahead with the
Charlie. Okay, let's go. Republic Press quickly. Gabby Chairman said clash over Oforiatta. We also have that story we did in the Ghanaian Times. OSP chases sacked minister over Anas tape, and Ken faces censure committee. Brian Achimpong Foundation hands over new classroom block to Kwewu Tafo SDA School. Advise your husband to resign. NDC's Barbara Asamoah to Mrs. Oforiatta. And the last one is Alhaji Baumia is now an appearance fee VIP. That's from Nicole Owen Jones. But I want to do a quick story, very interesting one. And this is someone that I always say that we need to applaud and we need to support. Black Sherif becomes first Ghanaian artist to reach 200 million plus streams on Boom Play.
I think it deserves a round of applause. This guy is doing amazing. I think back to back, it was Sarkodie who also, Black Sherif did it first. 100 million. And I think on the back of last year or so, Sarkodie also did it. But the mere fact that you have the Stone Boys, the Sarkodies, the ELs, the Edems, and all of these people, and Black Sherif came and did it first on Boomplay, and now he's hit another first with 200 million plus. We ought to celebrate this young man. He's doing amazingly well.
And you see, what I like about him is that he's very authentic. And this is a lesson to everyone that
be yourself.
Yeah, be yourself. Authenticity really, really sells. If you're yourself, then people will like you and people will see themselves through you and will want to support you. So congratulations once again to Black Sherif for becoming the first Ghanaian artist to reach 200 million plus streams on Boomplay. And I think this is like a grass to grace story that everyone can look at. And this is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. So whatever you're preparing for, don't worry, your opportunity will come. And when that opportunity comes, nobody can stop you.
You know, first sermon was okay. It was out there. Then second sermon came, more attention came. And then he came through with other tracks and Kweku the Traveler and all of that. You can see some consistency in there. And that's another thing. You may try the first time, not exactly get what you want, but keep trying and you'll definitely get there. I hear Dr. Asa Santi is back. Doc, we lost you. So let me just do these stories and quickly feed in this bit. There is IMF cleared Oforiatta in 2020. That's according to a Japamersa story on page 6. Let me just take a quick look at that. And the new Patriotic Party Member of Parliament for 2nd D constituency in the Western region, Andre Japamersa, has accused the NDC majority or minority caucus of rehashing old and debunked allegations against Minister of Finance Ken Oforiatta. He noted that the allegations of misreporting data were first raised in May 2020 but was rejected by the IMF as being untrue. That's according to Japamersa, because there are other issues that come up as well. I also wanted to run by you earlier the fact that the Bank of Ghana keeps pegging its official rate at around 13 cedis and 8 pesos, just around 13 cedis. But officially, when you go out to the Forex Bureau, you would actually be seeing something around 14 cedis and 80 pesos, almost 15 cedis. How do you react to these?
Yes, I think before I come to that, you lost me at the tail end where I was saying that if you look at corruption perception index within the Transparency International, Nana and John Mahama ended with 43%. Nana also ended in 2020, 43%. And then if you look at 2021, Nana is still 43%. It tells us that all is not well, because the closer you are to zero, it means that you are not able to fight corruption better. The closer you are to 100, you are doing well with regard to corruption, the fight against it. Let's look at the issue that you have raised. It tells you that our monetary policies, we have not evaluated them and to come out to see that whether it is worth maintaining them or reforming them or throwing them away. Why am I saying that? In any public policy studies, an issue like monetary policy is a policy. So when you put a policy in place, you should be able to evaluate the policy. And once you evaluate the policy, 3 options are there for you. Either to maintain the policy or cancel the policy or reform the policy. Which of these have they done? And that is, for me, you realize that there's a problem here. Because if you have done proper assessment, you would have known that the figures are changing. There are people who are holding their dollars, and there are those who are calling the rates. And of course, the Bank of Ghana is the one, coming out with the figures and all that. But who are those holding the dollar and exchanging for real Ghanaian currency and all that? All these things, you realize that there's a problem with it. And I think that the Bank of Ghana must up their game. We must be fair to them. It is not as if that they are sitting down, they are not working. The first part of Nana's administration, we saw a brilliant performance. But now, it is also true that what we are seeing is not the best. It tells us that they need to up their game and then right all their wrongs. Otherwise, we'll continue to have the falling of the CD, and then different figures will be bandied around, and that will not help anybody.
Doc, we're immensely grateful that you took the time to join us this morning, and we wish you the best of the week, sir. I'm
grateful. I wish you well.
All right.
Thank you.
That is Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, political scientist at the University of Ghana, director for the Center for European Studies. I felt it would be from government's end in the Ghanaian publisher. Ghana attains 100% enrollment at pre-primary level. That's according to Deputy Education Minister Reverend Tim Fojo. And private takeover of Saglemi project, a good call, Greta Executive Secretary Samuel Amegaibo says so. I have my own opinion on that, but for him, it's a good call, and he's a technical person. So, Mapito,
Benjamin,
let's do this.
It's been fantastic. We have a fantastic, we have, you didn't expect that, did you?
That's good.
We have a very fantastic and interesting show coming up, your interview with Mr. Tamaklo.
So, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo.
Yeah.
Interesting things he says about his assessment of this administration, planting for food and jobs, galamsey, corruption, football, practically everything.
Talking about football, 4 days to the World Cup. It's going to be exciting. We can't wait to see how Ghana is going to pepe them.
Pepe them.
Pepe them. Up next.
Charlie, but our group,
what?
Uruguay, South Korea, Portugal. Our first match is against Portugal.
Charlie.
We're praying with them.
According to Fireman Songo, he says we'll lose all.
Poto. We pray against that. We hope that, but if they carry goals and come here,
it will be
Anyway, up next we have sports. Do stay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining the conversation. We're in very good company. We're in his home, actually. He is a Ghanaian statesman, politician, former GFA boss, and also a former ambassador to Serbia and Montenegro. He speaks his mind, and we're here today to tap into exactly that. He is none other than Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo. He joins us for a conversation. Thank you so much, sir, for allowing us into your home.
It's a pleasure.
Great. I'd like to start off our conversation on a very interesting note. You've been here for a long time, far longer than some of us who are here speaking to you. When you look at Ghana, let's say at the inception of the Fourth Republic, and you look at Ghana today, what is the difference? What do you see on different spheres? Socioeconomic, life, I mean, what do you see comparatively?
I would rather like to go back to pre-independence a little, when I was a little boy, and then independence time. I remember very well in the middle school, primary school I would say, not even middle, we were taught that the per capita of the then Gold Coast was the highest in Africa, apart from Union of South Africa. Now, Union of South Africa was then a completely run white people. So if we are able to have such a huge amount of money then, and then we got independence. Now when we got independence, what a lot of people probably don't know is that little has been done by the British here. Little, virtually nothing. They built Takoradi Harbour, where they can ship away our raw materials. They built Kolebu Hospital, just a small hospital that can say to the natives.
I think that was Gaggisberg.
Yeah, it was Gaggisberg, right. I think 27 or so. And then they had for themselves a special hospital called European Hospital. A lot of you don't know. And the European Hospital later became Ridge Hospital.
Okay. Now the
and
Greater
now you
Accra
call it,
Regional
yes,
Hospital.
Greater Accra. Its initial name was European, and indeed only Europeans went there.
Right.
You follow me? Now, then of course Nkrumah started what vision he had with building of schools, secondary schools in particular, all across the country, under the so-called Ghana Educational Trust. A lot of secondary schools were put up. Interestingly, if the schools are in the north, somewhere in the north, somewhere in the south, east, west, they make sure, the then government, that students do come from different parts of the country to attend school at different places. And I think this idea was just to make sure that we come out as a united country. Now, after that, Nkrumah realized that to build a nation, we might need certain infrastructures. One, Akosombo Dam. That was the first thing, which he negotiated with the Americans, and finally he got it. And it was put over by, I think, Kaiser engineers. Then he shifted to the education side. I believe he realized that without education we can't get far.
Right.
So he put in place Ghana Medical School, which today is one of the best in the world. He put in place Ghana Law School, which today I would say is one of the best as well. Then put in place Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Now, all this naturally were happening almost at the same time, simultaneously. Then one thing we shouldn't forget was that Kwame Nkrumah also started sending young men, students who came out of secondary schools, to various countries all over the world.
Right.
Both
Germany, Russia,
to the west, to the east. He didn't care much about this east-west problems. Now, surprisingly, during that same period, the Chinese were doing the same thing. They had students in the US and a lot of other places. Unfortunately, it got to a stage that we had a little problem with our economy. And Kwame Nkrumah then had silos built for our cocoa, our major export, so that he can twist the hands of the buyers also. For if you hoard the cocoa, then they'll be shorted on the world market, which he did. But still, those who want his downfall pursued, and finally, he got out of the sin. Now, this tells you one thing. Export, which is the key for any government to really develop and grow. That is money that you get from outside dried up, if I would say so, at that time. And imports were becoming more And that ran us completely out of cash, and also hasten the removal of Nkrumah from power. Then came in the military. The military, the era of Afrifa and General Nkrai and others, and the Kotoka thing, was quite a different thing altogether. They were soldiers. How they managed to come in, I was then outside the country as a student, that I can tell. But they came in, the idea was to remove Nkrumah. Now, if you have removed Nkrumah, then of course, most of his ideas and projects must be stopped. And that's exactly what happened. You won't believe we used to assemble cars here, in Ghana here.
I do. I've read about it.
We assembled trucks. We assembled televisions, radios.
Sanyo and the rest.
Sanyo,
Akasanoma and the rest.
Akasanoma and others. We produce cigarettes. We produce matches here in this country. All has vanished. Even pharmaceutical. The main pharmaceutical we had for the government was the work of Nkrumah. So Ankara, naturally, and his group did nothing for this country. All to me is what they did was to see to the removal of Nkrumah. So they finished that agenda. Then came in a civilian government led by Professor Abrifas Buzia. The economy still was not good, so we had to fall once again on IMF and the World Bank or whatever you call them. And gradually they were trying to stabilize it. Now, one of the most, I will use the word, one of our economic giants at that time was the late J.H. Mensah. J.H. Mensah, I remember, was then the Minister of Finance. Now, J.H. Mensah was on the scene earlier on as a young economist when some of us were still students, long ago. And he worked with Nkrumah. In fact, he was part of those who drafted the 7-year development plan.
Right.
Now, it's amazing that he, at that time, an advice that had been given to Nkrumah and was not immediately accepted by one economist called Dr. Arthur Louis, as he is a West Indian also. Arthur Louis came and studied the state of our economy at that time and advised that we should start as an agriculture-based nation. That is, we must grow rice, we must grow maize, and even cassava. But that was not accepted. It was acceptable to Nkrumah at that time, unfortunately. But J.H. Mensah, when he became finance minister, also had the same idea. Because that will make us an exporter of such essential commodities. Look at the amount we spend at the moment in importing rice.
Right.
It's amazing. We're importing rice, we're importing tomatoes, we're importing almost everything now.
The president, in his last address on the economy, said he would go in for import substitution and try to produce some of these things here.
Thank you. Thank you. Which follows what we have been hearing now fast. You follow me? Now, when you look at the economy now, I was surprised. Firstly, I was very happy when Akufo-Addo said he's going to get away from the Gadgetsburg economy. That is wonderful. Which follows, our airports should be more than our imports. It's as simple as that. And maybe some of our raw materials have to be processed here somehow before they are sent out, so we can get in more money. But it turned out to be a different thing. You know it more than I do.
Has that agenda failed then?
Why did it fail?
Has that agenda failed?
Oh, it's failed totally. That's why we are where we are now. It's failed totally, and I get surprised.
In spite of 1D, 1F and everything else that has happened?
Is it, when I hear of those 1D, 1F, I ask myself, which of these factories, which they claim, I have not seen one, when they claim they have such factories, they should show us some of the products that have come out of them.
So there's
which are owned completely by the state.
That is where there are some questions, because some of them were given certain benefits, like rice producers, so that they could, some incentives are given to them and all of that. But there's the Akumfi juice factory, for example. Eku juice is practically everywhere you go. But some people have also had to question, like you're questioning now, that if we had all of these up and running, doing what we say they are doing, why are we where we are? And that's the question you're raising.
Yeah. Then we have a program, planting for food and jobs.
Right.
I mean, that is another sector that has totally collapsed. You see, what is happening now, today I was just watching the telly, and they have brought in foodstuffs,
right, plantain
to the ministries. I mean, you see, I don't know what is happening to my government. I don't understand that somebody can sit down and think about this. What exactly are you going to achieve? You follow me? It's just a knee-jerk reaction. It can never survive. Mark my words.
That enterprise by the Agric Ministry will not get anywhere.
I mean, how continuous is that going to be? It will collapse within days. Mark my words. Accra is not the only place in Ghana. Are they going to go to Segende Takoradi? Go to Kumasi, where even the stores are? Go to other parts of the country? So you ask yourself, is the government really aware of the hardships the people are in now, and have they got solutions to that? And I doubt strongly that this particular government is on autopilot now.
This particular government is on autopilot?
Absolutely, because I don't see any direction. I'm telling you. I don't see any direction. Look, I was in Kufuor's government as an ambassador.
Right.
And you see direction. You follow me?
Right.
Kufuor comes out with a policy statement and is pursued. I don't see that now. How can the whole minister
you're not still in government, so maybe you don't see certain things.
Oh, well, I'm a Ghanaian citizen. So whatever is happening, I am aware. And I'm telling you, I do move about a lot. There are places now, if you go there, you feel so sad. Go to Bukum. Do you know Bukum?
Yes, I do.
Go to Bukum and see the life there. And you ask yourself, where are we going? This nation, at the moment, is crowded with kiosks and containers. I mean, it's so pathetic. It wasn't like that. Anywhere you go, people, I mean, nobody respects the law. That is what is happening. Nobody respects the law. If he feels like setting up a kiosk somewhere, he just sets it up. I was looking at the program last time. I think it's about Botswana or so. Under Botswana, one of these countries in Southern Africa, where they were trying to show to the public how things are well organized. That if you want to build, when you possess a plot, the various services that you need after or when you are building will be there before you buy the plot, like water, street, electricity, and other things, before you get the plot. How do we build here? Accra has become a big junk. It's not organized.
Right.
Ceremonial roads are occupied by hawkers and traders. I don't know what is happening.
The Greater Accra Regional Minister, Henry Quartey, started off pretty well, moving people from Agbogloshi. Recently, I'm sure you heard of the Ramsar sites, in Sakobona and other things that have been done. But, I mean, looking at other aspects, talking about Accra as a sprawling community, the president said, for example, that Accra would become the cleanest city in Africa within his first term. We're in the first 6 years, and that has still not materialized. Would you say then, looking at, again, I'll come back to the Fourth Republic, looking at some of these things you point to, have we progressed as a nation or retrogressed?
We have retrogressed.
Under this administration?
Absolutely. We have retrogressed. Look, where I am now, I don't talk for a political party. I see myself as a non-partisan person. You follow me?
Right.
We have retrogressed. Because as I talk to you now, my party, which is in government now, should show us. I mean, that is as simple as something. ABC, it should show us what they have done. That one can say that it's a massive project for this country. They should show us one.
You're saying the interchanges, the road networks, and all the claims
which
that have been. Or you can mention Pokwase, for example. That
Pokwase was.
The Tamale,
please. Now, Pokwase.
I'm only reiterating because they make mention of these, and they say that, look, these are the things we've done.
When you do that, you are not being honest to yourself. These projects were started by the previous government. And you came and completed it.
But government is a continuum, isn't it?
It is. It is. I remember a project started by Kufuor, the Malam Highway.
Right.
When Professor Atta Mills completed it, he did one thing, and I said, this man is very civil. He invited Kufuor, and they jointly commissioned it. So we got to know that government really is a continual process, as we are saying. Do we see that now? The Tema, what do you call it?
The motorway?
No, not the motorway. The new, I think it's also...
Oh, the extension.
Extension,
right.
That's also by the previous government. Well, the most important is how to get the money to start the project, and they negotiated that.
Right.
So I want a situation where we have gone in for money ourselves and been able to come out, let's say, a hospital or something. Now, give me one example. I don't know it.
I mean, now that you make mention of this, just so this won't slip my mind, I just read today that the Minister for Works and Housing was putting out there that government is contemplating, the Saglemi housing project.
At where?
Saglemi.
Yes, Saglemi, I know
the affordable housing unit for years. That there is a contemplation to give it out to a private investor for government to cut its losses and recoup some of the cost. And maybe initiate other affordable housing projects. But other people have counted that all these affordable housing projects never yield or never are affordable to the masses anyway. What do you make of that move? Just a quick intervention there.
Well, I agree with the views of other people that it never gets the masses. But the sad thing is that what was done in Saglem has been totally neglected. Totally. I don't think there's anybody living there. So this, once again, will tell you that do we have a government Well, that is a huge project that a lot of money has gone into it. But nobody cares about it. Whether it is fully completed, that I don't know. But by now, the whole place should be operational. It's so sad. We have had instances like that. And we continue the same thing till today. Ghana as a nation, I believe strongly, must go the way some of the previous leaders have handled this. But the way it's going now, no. I don't think we are going the right way.
Let's focus a bit more on the economy. President Akufo-Addo enumerated a 12-point plan in his economic address. We've mentioned one of them, import substitution. In recent times, on the back of developments in the economy, currently, if you look at October inflation, it stands at 40.4%. The CD is still trading to the dollar at around 15 CDs, 14.50. Depending on where you go, people even quote prices as high as what? 17 CDs, depending on where you choose to go. But that's not the official Bank of Ghana rate. Then you look at the IMF situation. When you contemplate all of this, and the fact that recently, I actually heard you talk about the 80 members of parliament on the majority side who had tried to get out the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, a novelty in the Fourth Republic and, you know, across the history of our country. You said they had earned your respect, but going back after having listened to Mr. President and saying, okay, they will agree for him to read out the budget statement, go through the appropriations and all of that, do you feel they have failed?
I don't think they have failed. And I think quite recently, before Parliament opened, or the first day of Parliament, they came out with another statement that they still stand by what they said. And to me, that means a lot. You see?
But they didn't get what they wanted at the time. They pandered to Mr. President, who said, wait for this period. And tellingly, we don't know when exactly he's going to be relieved of his post, if he ever will be.
No, the point is that the 80 young men from my party who came out and spoke their mind clearly. Some of them even said, we are not building a dictatorship, which I like a lot. We are not building a dictatorship, which follows they have seen where the party is being taken to. Now, what really interested me in their latest statement was that they still stood by what it said. If Parliament, if the government is going to push, what do you call it, the budget through Parliament, they will not be part of it. They made it clear. And this is a very, very important statement. You hardly hear about such things. You hardly. Apart from few people who have resigned on principle as ministers, and that long ago in this country. So honestly, I respect those young men, I must tell you. And I believe, as I warned them last time, their first statement, that they should not allow themselves to be talked out of what they wanted to do by the president.
We're in a democracy. They are talking about a dictatorship. Do you feel we are under a dictatorship?
You are a Ghanaian. You follow me? When people have been slaughtered at polling stations.
You're talking about election 2020.
Exactly. Is that democracy? You have been here when the by-election was taking place at Ayawaso.
West Wogo.
What was that? Is that democracy? We shouldn't deceive ourselves. When lawyers, when the judges give doubtful judgments, is that democracy? Yeah. We have to be careful. We've seen democracy before, and that is not the way it's practiced. And I keep on saying, when we were recently electing leaders of our party, I remember I was asked a question, and I told them, there is unfortunate people like B.J. Darocha is no more alive. A person like R.R. Amponsa is no more alive. A person like J.H. Mensah is no more alive. A person like Odoisais is alive. but he's aged now. And few others, I think KG Osebo is alive, but his age. These are all my seniors. These were principal people. If they were alive, they would not allow this to happen in the NPP. Unfortunately, they are no more. The present leadership, I personally don't know where they are taking the party to.
Sticking with the economy, you recall this year, Mr. President said, we do not know how to bring the dead back to life, but we know how to bring the economy back to life, to resuscitate it. We had said we wouldn't go the way of the IMF. We are now, firmly headed to the IMF. Does that give you, especially looking at Ken Ofori-Atta, does that give you any confidence in this administration in terms of managing the economic aspect of our national life?
The statement that was made by Ofori-Atta that we are not going back to the IMF.
We're a proud people.
We're a proud people. And it's been seen clearly that we have gone back to the IMF. If I were Ofori-Atta, I would have resigned immediately. Now you ask yourself, why is it still there?
Why do you think?
What do I think?
Why do you think he's still there?
Look, when a person is in position, I made mention of dictatorship. When a person is in position and the populace say, we've had enough with you, go away, and still he wants to be there, the simple thing that will come to the mind of any ordinary person, that he's sitting on the rod. When he's not there, then we see how massive that rod is.
You're suggesting Ken Ofori-Atta is covering up for some people. For whom?
You're asking me that? Who is the appointing authority in this country?
Mr. President?
Yeah, and has the president approved of his removal? Huh? The president should have approved of his removal. But he himself should have asked him to go away. Here we have a situation where even an ordinary person in the street says Ofori-Atta must leave. Now, what sort of image is he given now to the world economist?
Right.
If he goes back to the IMF to negotiate, will they even respect us and respect the nation? I doubt. I'm not an economist, but I doubt.
So he's not even fit to
absolutely, but he should say that
process. Right.
Himself. He should say that himself. I mean, this is worrying. This is very, very worrying. And what really disturbs me is that other members, well, right now we are told that the whole majority agrees that he should go.
Right.
If I understood exactly what they said.
Yes.
So what prevents them from taking or using the parliamentary process to get him out of office if he's not resigning? And what prevents the president from writing him that he should leave office? So these are the questions.
Interesting questions you bring up, but since you talk about resignation, there are two things I want to bring to bear. First, a few months ago, Arise Ghana, when they were going to have their demonstration, you shared your thoughts on what they were calling for. Recently, we had a Kumipreko Reloaded demonstration on a Saturday. Young people hit the streets of Accra complaining about the economy. A lot of them spoke to the fact that they wanted the president to resign, the vice president to resign, the finance minister to resign, and additionally the energy minister for superintending these hikes in fuel prices, among others. How do you respond to that? Since you're talking about the will of the people, how do you respond to these calls for their resignation? Some have said that could degenerate into chaos. What do you think?
That will not generate into chaos. We have a constitution. and the Constitution has certain portions that, if followed properly, there will be no problem at all.
So, for example, if the president and the vice are not there, the speaker will step in after 3 months.
After 3 months, elections. So where is the problem? There is no problem.
But do you agree with the people who are calling?
Absolutely, I agree with them. I mean, when you have a government that is not functioning, this government is not functioning. If this government were to be functioning, and a Greek minister who is a doctor in a Greek, if I understood that, can do what he's doing now, cheap publicity. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. In the first place, look at the ministries. The ministries is being turned now into a farm market. I mean, I can't understand it. Go to the ministries and see how that place look like. The fields and the debts that will be left there. I mean, there are things that, certain things are happening. And then what worries me is that we have people in the MPP who are more capable than some of the ministers we have now. I use the word capable.
I mean, in the finance ministry, for example, names have come up. And the president himself said, your party had the men. So some have wondered why, Ken has stayed at post for so long. But you've also made mention of the fact that maybe he's sitting on something. But the other aspect of resignation, interestingly, there's a new documentary out there by investigative journalist Anas Aremeyaw Anas, excerpts of which have been put on social media, and out of which, based on a post that was put out, there were some things alleging that the Minister of Finance at the presidency, Charles Edubwahin, was somewhat complicit in some illegalities, peddling influence with the name of the vice president. We've seen a social media post by the vice president to that effect, saying that his integrity is paramount to him and that he takes exception to this. And today we've seen a letter basically dispatching the Minister of Finance, Charles Edubwahin. Edubwahin has responded as well, saying that he has seen some things on social media. He is not involved, he is not complicit, and he has resigned. It's pretty interesting, but my mind only goes back to the other Anas expose, which also highlighted Kwesi Nyantakyi and supposedly the president and the vice being in his pocket and all of that. Here we are again with the vice president's name being mentioned this time. What do you make of that situation?
I'm glad you made mention of Kwesi Nyantakyi's case. Because I have been interviewed on that. And I made it clear that I personally don't believe Anas.
Right. Why?
I don't believe he's an investigative journalist.
Why?
An investigative journalist does his work in such a way that all the points that he got are so important to him that no one ever hears about it. And the first thing he should do is to release it to the public, in the public hall or something. But here we have a situation where this particular investigative journalist, when he comes out with something, makes sure it's seen by the leaders of the country before it gets to the public. In his last investigative work, the names of the president and the vice president came in. What has happened? What has happened? I mean, we should stop sort of, what do you call it, thinking that the people of this country are fools. They are not fools. What has happened? What has happened today, and the name of Bawumia has been mentioned. And that has led to another reaction from the presidency.
Of course, we know the vice is now acting as
president. The vice is acting. So right. was it dismissed by the vice or dismissed by the president? The president is not in the country. So once again, When I tell you that we are going the wrong way, you should understand me. Look, I asked myself one simple question. How did the work that has been done by Anals got leaked? I'm told it was published somewhere in the guide today.
Right. Yes, there was a story earlier this morning.
Story. If it's so, that is totally wrong. I don't know which of the papers, guide or that you have a daily guide and guide, eh?
Yes.
Which one is run by?
I think it's the Crusading Guide or something of the sort. But
I think that's Kweku Bakon's paper.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they should stop joking with the people of this country. And many a time, you, the young men, I blame you. You are not energetic. I don't find you to be energetic at all. Because when we were fighting military regimes, damn the consequences. We faced them head on. People died. I remember Kumipreko in our time. It wasn't a joke. Charles Broby, a great organizer. Kwesi Pratt, great organizer. Kweku Bahako, great organizer. Kweku Puku, great organizer. Sheshi, great organizer. That's Akotuampa. And then Kakrapa Cromwell, a young man who has just left Legon, and he teamed up with us, another great organizer. And mind you, in those days, we didn't have radios like you have now. No telephones that you can just take and invite somebody. But we made a mark. And Rawlings government was shocked. We made a mark. Immediately, they brought down the percentage of the VAT. So you can see that the people have the power. But you guys now, you are just a pack of, people who just, Malcolm X says, not just talking, but at times you have to bleed a little.
Not just talk, sometimes you must bleed a little.
You have to bleed.
But
you can't keep on talking all the time.
Bleeding, some may suggest, Dr. Nyahuta, you are suggesting people should engage in activities that are a bit violent and all of that? Is that what you're suggesting?
No. When we took into the streets 100,000 people, it has never happened before. I was at the head of the march when the police opened fire. But we came. And later on, the police commander came and talked to me, and the police who were confronting us initially came on our side and was now guarding us on our route to where we were to end the march. We faced them. They opened fire. You follow me? About 8 people died. Unfortunately, some of them were very young people. And I believe we used to visit them and go to church on their behalf yearly. We even promised them that in future, when we come to power, we shall have these things investigated and find the culprits. We have never done it. Kufo was in power, we didn't do it. What do you call it? Akufo-Addo is in power now. He was part of the group. He hasn't done anything about it. And the families are there. I challenge him today to come and deny what I'm saying.
Moving forward, you're calling on the youth to be more bold.
To be more bold, more bold.
What do you think, very succinctly, what do you think can be done to salvage our economy, our national life? I mean, I was speaking earlier today with the government statistician, Professor Samuel Kobina Enim, and he makes mention of the fact that, well, contrary to what figures have been put out initially about the rate of illiteracy in the country, about 8 million of us, that's about a third, because we're not looking at the entire population. Those from 0 to 5 years are not part of it, are illiterate, for example. There are so many challenges we face as a people. What do we do? How do we turn the tide of our economic, educational crisis that we're facing?
There's one simple thing. If governments, I won't say government, if governments could see to accountability, have you listened to me?
Yes.
There must be integrity in the leadership, and will at least respect and do what the Auditor General will say.
Surcharges and the rest.
Absolutely. This can block a whole area that our money goes out. People have been accused of several things. There have been fractions all over since Akufo-Addo came to power. What has been done to them?
Right.
What has been done to those people? They are working freely.
Has corruption
and that,
then...
in fact, that surprises me, because I know Nana-Addo was not like that. So what has happened?
Are you surprised?
I'm surprised. Nana-Addo that I knew is not the one that is ruling Ghana now. I'm telling you.
What has changed?
That I don't know. Maybe those around him. But believe me, there are people, if they were to be around Nana-Addo, Charles Brobe, myself, Kwesi Pratt, I don't think things will go the way it's going.
So you feel maybe...
These are people who will tell him exactly what is happening.
You feel maybe, and that has been the downfall of many leaders, you feel he is surrounded by the wrong people?
Absolutely. These are people who are afraid to tell him exactly what is happening. That has happened to a lot of presidents in this country. If Nana-Addo will listen, I'm sure the way he's going now will never go.
Just let's stay briefly on corruption. The figures, whether it's the Afrobarometer survey or whatever that we've seen over the years, have not been positive. We also know about the billions of dollars we apparently lose every year to corruption. What comes to mind, the latest, has to do with this unknown businessman who tried to sway members of parliament in the majority side. I'm sure you've heard of this person. How do you feel about that situation? Because some have said this borders right down the alley of corruption and should not be tolerated. But as we speak, we don't know this person. We don't know whether there's any fire to that smoke.
It is the duty of the special prosecutor to go into it deeply, summon the 80 people and find out who that person was. The special prosecutor, what has he done so far? Huh? What has he done? He lives near me here. Just here, just when you are going, you see a house on the right corner there. A glass house or whatever it is, I don't know. With an open, perforated gate. What has he done? This is his work. Who that businessman is, he should investigate into it and get him out for us to know. Is he prepared to do that? If he's prepared, let him do that now. But I challenge him on that particular issue. If he's unable to do that, then he has to leave office.
You're challenging the special prosecutor on that issue to take it up?
Yeah, to take it up, because this is a serious matter. If you are able to influence our lawmakers financially, then this country is finished. I'm telling you. That can happen to anybody. In fact, that is maybe what is happening now. Right down from the Supreme Court all the way down to the Magistrate Court. If one individual can influence our lawmakers, then we're in big trouble.
Do you think it behoves the lawmakers themselves, let's say, for example, the majority leader, to be forthcoming with the information for everyone to know it was ex-businessman and for the right processes to be followed?
Absolutely. It should have come out by now.
They also have the responsibility.
Absolutely.
Do you feel disappointed up to now we don't know who this person is?
I'm sure he knows who the person is.
No, I'm saying, do you feel disappointed that up to now they have not made it known who this businessman was?
Very much disappointed. And I don't know, maybe one day, that's why I say the special prosecutor should see into that particular problem. Because those young men who, I will call them 80 rebels or whatever they are, if any of them knew the person, that businessman, it is their duty also to come out with the name.
There are three quick issues I want us to look at in the next few minutes. The first has to do with Galamsey. Recently, we're at COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. Our president is there. He's been there. He's delivered crucial addresses. He's even spoken about what Ghana's efforts have been in securing our oceans, water bodies, and all of that. When you look at the state of Galamsey, my colleague Erastus Asaridonko has put together lots of documentaries and all of that. It's a crying shame from what we have seen. What do you see? Are we possibly getting it right in the fight against Galamsey?
No, we are not at all. You see, once again, it comes to the leadership. This Galamsey issue, there was an investigation before where a minister was involved. What has happened to that minister? Quite recently, one of your colleagues, well, you just mentioned his name, what's the name?
Erastus Asaridonko.
Asaridonko made it clear that a top party official is involved. What has happened to him? So I don't believe.
You're referring to the Ashanti Regional Minister?
Absolutely. Not the minister, Ashanti,
the chairman of the
party.
MPP, right, and Akonta Mining.
Is it too big for the laws of this country? I saw on television one time, early part of is coming to power, displaying cash on television. I was surprised. So you can see, when I say the whole thing boils down, or the final, what do you call it? What do you call it? The final
responsibility?
Responsibility lies on the president. There are cases, if it had been Kufuor, he would have dismissed the people. I know that for a fact. But here we have a situation where there are no dismissals. People have been committing offenses and they go about freely. So now, the people, the ordinary person has lost confidence in the government itself. I'm telling you what is happening. I move about a lot. And I'm always with the grassroots, so I know what I'm talking about. They know it. I know they know it.
Speaking of which, right before we end the conversation with football, since you're talking performance, the president has spoken and given glowing tribute, paid glowing tribute to some of his ministers. He's spoken about the Minister for Trades and Industry, Alacha Mating, the Agric Minister, the Education Minister, others, at different times. But people ask, if they've performed so well, why are we where we are? They performed
so well.
The president has said that they have performed extremely well. But other people have asked, if they've performed so well, why are we where we find ourselves? What is your take on that? And looking at the performance of this administration, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you place them?
I was asked this question some time ago. And I said, for having been able to handle this country, at least for 4 years at that time, now we're in the 6th year, I think, I will give them 4 over 10.
At that time?
At that time.
So this was 2 years ago?
Yes, now I will go lower.
So what will be your score for this administration?
2.
2 out of 10?
I'm telling you.
That's a fail grade.
It is a fail. In fact, we are a failed state. This nation is now a failed nation. People do what they like. When you have a nation that the people don't respect the laws, we have courts. There are people invited to the court and they fail to go. I mean, you know that. I don't have to tell you. They know what will come out of it. They don't go. We have people being killed. People have been in detention for murder. They have not been tried for years. This is not democracy. When a person is going to the Supreme Court or the High Court, he or she is disturbed because he doesn't know what the outcome will be vis-a-vis judgment that will be given by the judges. This is a failed state. If things were to be functioning properly, like it's happening in civilized countries, who can ever believe that Trump in the US, right now as we talk, if not careful, in fact, he will be on his way to prison. Can this happen here? So when I fail, I say, we are a failed state. I know what I'm talking about.
To conclude, let's talk football. Let's end on a lighter note. You are ex-GFA boss. Yeah. You still are a senior board member of Accra Hearts of Oak.
That's right.
The fortunes of Accra Hearts of Oak in this league have not been too good.
Yes, that's I agree with you.
The sacking of Samuel Bwedu and everything, it hasn't mitigated much. What do you think of that? And just to add up, the Black Stars are heading for Qatar, but we know that, crucially, they've lost some people to injury. In our goalkeeping department, Jojo Wallacott has fractured a finger. Richard Ofori, I believe, is also out with an injury. They had to bring in Dan Ladd from Kumasi Asante Kotoko and all of that. How do you feel? And I hear there's a third injury. I've just forgotten the other player's name, not a goalkeeper. How do you feel this would impact our campaign in Qatar? So Hearts of Oak and the Black Stars, and we'll wrap.
Well, Hearts of Oak, I agree with you that our performance from the beginning of the league was very jerky. I agree with you, but we noticed it was a technical issue, so we have fixed that now. We got a new coach, and we've started seeing improvement in the boys now. I hope it will continue. Now, the question of the Black Stars, my worry is that if we really want to make an impact like we did in 2010, in fact, I was the chairman of the GFA when we interviewed and picked the then coach Dukovic.
Right.
And he qualified us for the first time in our history.
Right.
And I was also then an ambassador.
You mean ahead of 2006?
Ahead of 2006.
Right.
I was an ambassador in Belgrade when I was contacted by Kwesi Nyantechi and Fred Papu looking for a coach. Virtually, I interviewed the coach. He came down and he also qualified us. I'm talking about Milo. Look, if we really want to make impact, then we have to put in money. Kwame Nkrumah, during his time, we won 2 cups, African Cup of Nations. Nkrumah put in money. He was interested. In fact, he picked somebody special who was responsible for football. General General Achampong came. He had interest too. In fact, he was the Minister of Youth and Sports.
Right.
And also picked somebody special, a Lieutenant Colonel, to see to football in particular. He also won. That's 3, isn't it?
Right.
Now, when Liman came, he also concentrated on football. Even though by then our resources were minimal. finally, we qualified. We qualified during the era of Rawlings. But the work has been done by Liman.
Right.
Let's make it clear. Now, we didn't have money for an air ticket to Libya. You won't believe, you guys are too young to know some of these things. There was no money. The Libyans sent a special plane to come and take Abedipeli and others to Tripoli, or wherever they were. And we got to the finals with them. They thought we might just leave it for them, but we defeated them. And you know what they did?
What?
Just to spite us. They started throwing toilet rolls on the field. But by then there was no toilet rolls in Ghana.
Right.
They were the same people who flew us back to Accra. So if you want to get a good result in anything that you do, you must focus on it. I believe strongly that the time we give to our footballers, especially in the national team, to play towards such a major match like the World Cup, that time is not enough. Because footballers have to play to know themselves. And whenever we do that, we get good results. So where we are going now, boys are coming from different clubs. They have not had opportunity to play together, to gel. And with that, it's a bit difficult to get very good results. But we shall see.
Let's see whether we can grind the results. It's been really refreshing engaging you. Final words, very briefly, as we cap.
My final word, I've always been saying that the continuous existence of this nation, Ghana, depends on journalists. I say that always. Because if journalists would be very straightforward and report exactly what is happening, there will be a lot of changes in this country. Journalists are so powerful. Journalists run the US. They run Britain. They run Germany. Simply by saying what is true. Not journalists who are in the pockets of governments. And if journalists are in the pockets of government, it is a serious problem for the whole nation. Because they can do or undo. And unfortunately, in Africa, most journalists can easily be influenced. It's so sad. I'm saying this, I know what I'm saying.
Right.
So I call on all journalists, most of you are very young. Say no when it is no. And don't allow any politician to influence you. Look at what has happened today. Dismissal of Edu Boahen. You read straight and you see that it's been twisted. I mean, we are no fools. You read straight. Number one, how did it come that Kukubago had the information first? But his paper produced it. Secondly, how did it get to the vice president?
Well, we do know the ties between, I don't want to, between him and the investigative journalist.
I've been with Kuku for years. I know him very well. I know Kuku very well. At times, it amazes me some of the position or stance that he has taken. When he was in prison in Winneba, when it was even dangerous to talk or visit a prisoner, then, political prisoner, myself and late General E.A. Eskin, who died recently, may his soul rest in peace. We went all the way to visit Kweku Bago. He's alive. If I'm telling lies, we should come out to say. But then Kweku Bago was Kweku Bago. Not the Kweku Bago I see now. Who can now, he can't talk. When Kweku Bago was Kweku Bago, he talked. What has now happened and he can't talk He knows it himself. Well, so you journalists, I advise you to be strong. Luckily, most of you are young people. So if you really don't say what you have on your mind, this country will be in a big, big, big trouble in future.
Doc, we're so grateful. It's been refreshing interacting with you today. Thank you for welcoming us into your home and for interacting with us. We wish you the very best and more life, more grace, and everything positive.
It's a pleasure meeting you too. I do see you on the telly. I'm glad I've seen you personally today.
Great. Okay. Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo engaging us today on sports, the economy, Galamsey, our national life, and everything in between. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. Well, we're back on air. It's good to be here. I don't often get to sit here, you know, sandwiched between two awesome women. One looking all orangey, the other one looking all polka dot, black and white. Anyway, welcome back on the AM show after that interaction with Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo.
Yep.
Quite an interview.
Yes.
The things he said.
Yeah. And he was very blunt. He didn't mince his words. For me, one of the highlights is his downgrade of the performance of this government.
Right.
When you asked him to grade 1 to 10, what it will be, he mentioned that, well, previously he had given the government a 4, but now it's a 2. I mean...
And that's like a failure.
Yeah, that's like a failure, but I'd have loved to hear what exactly led to that downgrade.
He mentioned a number of things. The failure of, you know, the president spoke about import substitution.
Yeah.
He says 1D, 1F has failed.
Okay.
He says the planting for food and jobs has failed. In fact, he went after the agric minister for that, what he calls, propagandist move to sell foodstuff at the very premises of the agric ministry and all of that. So he had a number of things to say.
Okay, so those were the things that informed his... Interesting. But it was a good one you had on sports, because whenever you have Dr. Nyaho,
you have to discuss sports.
You have to discuss sports. It was an interesting one, even as we look forward to the World Cup, which is happening in some 4 days. We've got our fingers crossed. Hopefully the boys will do well. But back to that interview. He had a bit of bashing for Anas Arimea on us.
Yes, he says, and some people agree with him. I think the president of Imani Africa has also had a stake on the fact that, look, if you conduct an investigative journalistic piece or documentary, you put it together, you might as well put it out to the public first for the public to make their assessment. Then the parties involved can have a whiff of it. But if somehow, like we saw with number 12, you know, there was even a portion for the president and the vice president responding to some of these claims, then you water it down and it ceases to be proper investigative journalism. That is how he sees it. Don't give them the opportunity to play with it or tweak it, or maybe there shouldn't be opportunity to cut out certain things. That's basically what he's leaning toward.
But the bit on fair response,
I
mean, I think that it's something that is practiced by, you know, global media houses. When I do an investigative piece about maps, before I let the world know, I must give maps the opportunity to respond.
I don't think that's the point he makes.
Okay,
the point he makes is,
here.
So put it out. Don't, yes, you can inform them that, oh, this is what we've uncovered about you and all of that.
Response
but it's not now for, because you'd realize that snippet that came out and the write-up on social media and all of that, those are the things he's referring to. You can have a discussion with them, but don't put it out to the public. The public must see the full thing first time before any opportunity for reactions and all of that come in. So it doesn't water down the effect. But he talks about dictatorship, even in a democracy. He talks about Ghana being on autopilot. And he also talks about the fact that Oforiatta should have resigned a long time ago. After he said, we're proud people, we're not going the way of the IMF. And then we did. Someone who is responsible would have resigned. But tellingly, maybe just to add, he also calls on media people to desist from being bought, selling our conscience. And he calls out media people who are in the pockets of
This was an
government.
all-round interview, and I think that's what's good about it. He didn't leave any sector untouched. But talking about the finance minister, that's going to be our next conversation because of what happened in Parliament yesterday. Very interesting hearing that we saw. So we saw all the reactions on social media. We'll be delving more into that.
Please, before you get into that, I'd like to find out, do you purchase fuel?
I do. We spoke about this.
Do you own a car?
No, I don't.
You don't own a car?
I don't own a car.
Okay. Then I'm going to get you on there.
Did you see Mom's face? I don't own a car. Stop being mischievous.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, so we'll be having that conversation. And also, we know that despite the censure hearing, more NPP MPs have joined their colleagues to demand the dismissal of Ken Ofori-Atta. One would have thought that once the motion for censure is being heard, there would be some restraint. But it appears that the NPP MPs are bent on getting the president to sack the finance minister.
Yeah.
So Kweku Asante is in Parliament for us. We understand that there's something else that's brewing. I don't know if you heard
You know of the bit about the majority leader and Oseiche Mensah-Bonsu and Gabi Asare-Ochodako.
Yes.
That's an interesting twist.
That's an interesting twist. We know Gabi has responded. He says that he sent a message to the majority leader indicating that he's never made such an allegation and he never sponsored anybody to unseat him in 2016. And we're understanding that there's
simmering tension. And this is becoming personal.
Yeah.
That's what I am. It's
That's
now
what
becoming
you're
personal
learning.
between those two parties. We'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, but one of these days it will be good to have a conversation about the NPP as a party and what it makes of all of these things. Because yes, this is the majority in Parliament. This is a known figure in the party, but it's telling on what's happening within the party. All right, guys. So this is why I dismissed the two of you. Thank you so much for holding the fort.
Aye, ma'am.
Yeah. So we're delving right now into that conversation on the censure hearing, and we've got Sami Obeng, Executive Director, Parliamentary Network Africa, joining us for that conversation. And well, before that, though, we've just got a wrap of what happened during that hearing for you.
It was a hearing full of heated arguments and forceful presentations. The minority set out to brand Ken Ofori-Atta as the minister who must not continue in his current role as the finance minister. Counsel for the finance minister, Gabi Asare-Ochodako, objected to the manner in which the minority were handling their evidence.
And it would not be fair to the Minister of Finance to be ambushed and right here, without any preparation, to start answering questions. The documents are fine, but before we even be able to look into the documents, we want the charges to be complete with the particulars. That's all we ask.
Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu described the minister as incompetent, the sole reason for country's current economic predicament.
2017, $1 was to 4.2 Ghana cedis. Today, $1 is 15 Ghana cedis. That has meaning for businesses in Ghana. The cost of doing business is unacceptably high for businesses. The pharmaceutical industry is complaining because it affects their imports and they are made to pay more. The depreciation of the cedi has affected even Makwala women who cannot trade effectively.
Dr. Kisela Tufosin said the minister had breached the fiscal responsibility law and has also misreported data to Parliament.
So if you breach it by 1 percentage point, then obviously the vote of censure may trigger. What we have seen is that over the years, even though the minister responsible for finance has been presenting some economic data to Parliament, in the year 2018, Mr. Chairman, you can see it on the board, our minister responsible for finance and the government had said to Parliament that the fiscal deficit was 3.9% of GDP. In fact, in the year 2018, the reason why they said it's 3.9% of GDP was that a key expenditure worth 9.8 billion Ghana cedis was excluded from the fiscal accounting. They treated it below the line. and this has to do with the financial sector payment. The law was passed on the 28th of December 2018, and by December 31st, 2018, the minister has breached the fiscal responsibility rules already. So 3 days down the line, there was a deficit of 1.8. And that is why we are saying that the trend for the censorship motion moved in the year 2018. In fact, if we were to go by it, somebody could have brought the motion to censure the minister in the year 2018 or 2019 because he breached the rules. And to my surprise, these are rules that were set by the minister himself when this bill, he brought the bill to Parliament for a reason. The reason is to ensure fiscal sustainability and debt sustainability. If you breach these rules, it has long-term repercussion on the Ghanaian economy. And today, we are seeing what is happening. So, Chairman, I tender this one to in evidence. In evidence.
There was an intense back and forth between Gabi Asare-Chiridakon, who is lawyer for Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, and North-Tongue MP Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, who is a member of the 8-member ad hoc committee.
Mr. Chairman, we object to this strongly. If he can hold a press conference to deal with those matters, but I think that we are here for a specific reason. Grounds have been stated. Let's stick to that. You know, we are not here for it's not a political platform to make some political pronouncements. These are serious allegations. Please.
He will not teach me how to do my work in Parliament.
No,
this is Parliament. You won't teach me how to do my work.
Let me finish.
No, he can't come here and throw his weight about. He can't teach me how to do my work. I take strong exception that I should go and hold a press conference. Please.
I'm only 78 kilos. I'm not going to throw it around.
Please. I won't accept that.
Yes.
And you are not the chair. You don't tell members of Parliament what to do.
That's fine. So, I mean, we appreciate the point you make.
I will do my work. I'm not going to hold a press conference. You will not teach me how to do my work.
Was a wrap put together by my colleague Kweku Asante on what transpired in Parliament yesterday. Let's now speak to Sami Obeng, Executive Director, Parliamentary Network Africa. Hello, Sami. Good to have you here once again. Your quick assessment of the hearing yesterday.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me. Well, it was a good first day in my estimation. It was a time for the committee to, explain to the general public as well as the parties involved what the procedure, for the hearing is going to be. They did well to do that. It was a good opportunity for the proponents of the motion to set out the, terms of the motion, to explain the 8 points that they had captured in the motion, and they also did that. I think that the finance minister and his council were also, forceful in indicating how much time they will be needing to go through the various documents that have been tendered in evidence on the matter, and they were also successful in getting the 48 hours bit. So all in all, I think it was a good first day.
Right. So there were concerns by lawyer for the finance minister. He says that they were being ambushed. There were other highlights of that particular hearing yesterday. But what people are most concerned about, especially on social media, is the conduct of the co-chair, K.T. Hammond. Did you also have reason to worry with some of his rulings and mannerisms?
Well, of course, the council. First of all, let me take the issue about the objections that were raised by the council finance minister. Of course, in such parliamentary procedures, you would really, expect that people who come in as counsel for a particular party would want to, certainly, make a case and a point for why certain things done in a particular way or must not be done in a particular way. So you cannot fault them for that. Surprised that on social media, as people watch this live on the Parliament Facebook page, on television, on various, platforms, people were very much concerned about the mannerism, the approach to the chairmanship by the Honorable Co-Chair Katie Hammond. I think that if there was a low point, really, in the whole procedure during yesterday's session, it would be that particular side of things. I think that he and his team, once they go into conclave, would be able to recognize this and will come and have a better show at things when.
Hello, Ms. Obing? Hello, Sami?
Yes. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I lost you there a bit. Were you done with your response to that question?
Yes, I was saying that perhaps by Friday, the committee should have been able to recognize that they could do things better, especially the coordination between the two co-chairpersons. Of course, if you have a parliamentary committee being co-chaired by two members from either sides of the House, certainly you expect that we would have some of these things coming up. But certainly, Honorable Katie Hammond could do better.
Right. So at the heart of this is the finance minister's stay in office and the censure motion, the motion for his censure. Now, it's interesting because while this is happening in Parliament, the NPP MPs who a while ago asked the president to sack him and the then Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Charles Edubuahin, have been able to get more numbers. Initially, they were about 80, now they are 98. Now, despite this hearing, they're still mounting pressure on the president to sack the finance minister. What does this indicate for you with regards to the confidence they as a majority have in their own government's appointee?
When the initial estimated number of 80 members of the majority caucus first held a press conference to indicate their proposals on what needs to be done, and the fact that they would not want to have the finance minister stay in office and he doesn't have to be the one leading the budget process, I was one of those people, and of course my organization, Parliamentary Network Africa, congratulated them very much for that bold step, because we don't usually see these things. We don't usually see members of a particular caucus, especially when their government is in power or their party is in power, making such bold steps. And I think that it was a good thing that they needed to be commended on. Fortunately, they've had a few more members joining in. Sometimes the narrative have been quite inconsistent as to whether they are going to participate in the budget process or not, as to whether they are going to participate in this censorship motion and vote for it or not, and what have you. But I think the more we have many more members of parliament on the majority side join this group of MPs, the better it is for us. It goes to show that some of the things that we have spoken about in the past, about members of parliament doing party bidding all the time, against doing the bidding of the very people that elected them into parliament and have them as their representative, then we are getting to that particular stage where members are showing that when push comes to shove, they can be able to stand with the people. So I think it's a very good thing, and we need to encourage these members of parliament to not feel like they are on the negative side of history, but to feel like they would come up as a group of heroes and heroines who, when the going got tough, stood with their people and were very principled on their position, though the heavens fall.
Right, finally, Sami, before I go to my colleague who is joining us from Parliament, what would you wish would happen, especially with this hearing? We are told that the minister will appear on Friday. The co-chair of the committee, Dominic Ayeni, was a bit concerned about the 48 hours that lawyer for the finance minister was requesting because of the time frame they were given by the speaker to do their work. And so on Friday, we're going to hear from the finance minister. He suggested 9, but his Katie Hammond, suggested 10 a.m. What are you expecting to see on Friday, even as we wait to hear the response of the finance minister to these 7-point allegations raised by the minority?
Yesterday, excluding the break, the 1 hour or so break that the members of the committee took, we analyzed that the committee sat for about 6 hours. That was a very good time for a committee, a long time for a committee of parliament to sit on a matter like this. It shows the level of commitment by the committee. The questions and the issues that were put forward for me were a very good advertisement of how well parliamentary committees can do their work. And we expect that on Friday, similar things will be replicated. Of course, the committee will be under enormous pressure to have to hear the side of the minister and his people, put forward their own part of the argument. Now, assuming that takes another 6 hours, the committee will still need some time to put together its reports, get ready and all of that and present to plenary. But I expect that between now and Friday, the committee will go to the Right Honorable Speaker and make a request for some form of an extension, so that they can be able to have some time to do the work that needed to be done. But all in all, I really expect a good time on Friday. I expect that overall, when the committee has finished hearing the two sides, the committee would discharge itself professionally. They will come up with a report that will not derail all of the effort that they put into it. And in the end, they will not come up as a committee that caused their own infighting to derail all of the effort that they have put into it.
Right. Thank you for your time here. Samuel Bing is Executive Director, Parliamentary Network Africa. Let's now head to Parliament, where my colleague Kweku Asante is standing by for us. So, Kweku, it was about 6 hours of interaction yesterday between the minority leader and its spokesperson for finance. We also heard from Mr. Otredako and other members of the ad hoc committee. We've seen the highlights in that report that you put together. But between yesterday, when the hearing was suspended, and Friday when it will resume, give us a hint of what the committee is likely to be doing, especially since we heard yesterday about GNPC and other institutions or individuals being contacted to furnish the committee with some details.
So, Bernice, our understanding is that the committee will be taking this time, these 2 days off that it has, really, not to just be there and waiting for the finance minister, but to speak to some of the institutions whose name came up during the hearing, notably GNPC, having to do with this ground of allegation, the third ground having to do with illegal payment of oil revenues. We heard there from Andrew Ejapamesa, he is the Deputy Energy Minister, who said that the Jubilee Oil Holdings Company, the company which the allegation is that the ministry have created as a shell company to dump these amounts of money, is solely owned by the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC. And so GNPC will be providing some help, some support, some information to the committee on why that institution was founded, why the amounts of money have been deposited, and why it is registered offshore, among other things. So our understanding from some confidential information I'm getting from the committee is that between today and tomorrow, GNPC and other such institutions who were mentioned in this investigation and in these public hearings that we've had so far will be contacted by the committee and will be expected to provide some information for the report of the committee that will be presented to plenary hopefully next week.
Right. So, Kweku, there were some reactions on social media, and it's important that we help in educating the public on what exactly was supposed to happen yesterday. So, I'm learning that the finance minister was actually not expected to appear before the committee yesterday, but he did appear, and so people have expressed a bit of disappointment that they didn't hear from him. Just run us through exactly what yesterday's hearing was meant for, why the minister was there even though we are told he wasn't supposed to appear, and what likely we're going to see when he appears on Friday.
So, Bernice, Article 82, which deals with this motion of censure, says that when the debate is happening, the finance minister may be heard in his own defense. So actually what is happening at this committee is an extension of the entire parliament. That was the ruling of the speaker. Now what is going on is part of the debate of the vote of censure that the minority have filed. So yesterday, the finance minister was not expected to speak. He was expected to appear with counsel or whatever aspect of his choice that he sought to appear with. But he was supposed to be there and listening to the debate, because what the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, Kaisel Atufosin, were doing, together with the members of the committee, were a debate. So the minority were laying their grounds. The committee members were asking questions. They are also making comments of their own. The finance minister is expected to be sitting in, listening to all these grounds and allegations that have been made against him, so
so that he can prepare satisfactory responses when it is time. We also saw on a couple of occasions his lawyer, the Gabi Asariotredako, interject a number of times, objecting to questions, objecting to certain evidence that were being laid. Indeed, if the finance minister so wished, he could have done so himself. He could have just sat there as a member of the committee or a member as someone who was interested in the debate as Article 82 provides. And he could have objected, he could have provided explanation as and when necessary. Because this situation is fluid. You know that this is the first time a vote of censure is being moved under the 1992 Constitution. So a number of the modalities had not been set out already. And the Constitution and the standing orders are absolutely silent on this procedure. So the finance minister could sit there, interject to questions, offer explanations as part of the debate. But he has not elected to do so. And that was what his lawyer, Gabi Asariotredako, was doing by coming in every now and then. What is not clear now is what will happen on Friday. Will the finance minister make an opening remark? Will he say something? Or all the grounds that have been advanced by the minority, the answers will now be provided by the lawyer, because this has become sort of a legal process. There are those who have said that this is not a court, and so you cannot hold a court standard, strictly speaking, in terms of admissibility of evidence, instead of calling of witnesses, among other things. But we also know that committees of parliament have the powers of a high court. So a number of these issues need to be stranded out so that in the coming years, if anything of that sort comes up, it will be clearer. But the finance minister was not expected to speak yesterday. Indeed, if he so wished, he would not have been at the hearing, but he elected to do so, come and listen to the proponents of the censure motion, and then prepare his grounds of defense to do so on Friday.
Right, Kweku, also on social media, we've seen a lot of reactions. People are concerned about the behavior of the co-chair, Katie Hammond. They say that he's making the committee's work look like a joke. I don't know what it was like inside the main hall, because we could see right behind where the finance minister was sitting, there were other people there. What was the general reaction to some of his interjections and rulings and mannerisms?
Indeed, there were a lot of such comments in the House, where whenever the co-chair, Katie Hammond, made some remarks, there will be people who will be giggling or laughing or, reacting sort of. And I made a lot of notes, and these notes, everything I've written here is the number of interjections that Katie Hammond had to make, some of the so-called light moments. But I spoke to him informally outside of the hearing. He is not perturbed about what is going on so far. He says that he's doing his job as co-chair of the committee. He is not doing so to so-called what social media people would like. But he thought that what he was doing was in the best interest of the committee, who come in every now and then. But he also thought that while this is a very serious matter, we don't have to come and sit here and make it seem as though we are going at war with each other. Right. And that such light moments were necessary to deflate tensions, to deflate that kind of pent-up emotions that are built up in the committee room. So from his perspective, he thought that there was nothing wrong with what he's been doing. And I'm sure right after this committee is able to present his report, the debate happens on the floor, Katie Hammond will speak extensively to some of the things he did. But a number of them that I've noted, going to the point where he speaks about not buying fuel. There's a part where they talk about haircuts, in terms of the IMF negotiation, where he says God is his own barber, he doesn't have to get a haircut and among other things. But he thought that there was nothing wrong with.
Yeah, and interestingly, he also made reference to the coconut head statement he made some time ago. It was an interesting moment yesterday. We also had people giving us some proverbs here and there. But let's wrap this up quickly, Kweku, and delve into other matters in Parliament. Because while you were monitoring that censure hearing, the NPP MPs were still mobilizing other colleagues. Now we understand 98 of them still want the finance minister gone, despite the hearing of the censure motion. What exactly is the mood in the House, especially on this matter?
Indeed, if one word can summarize that, that would be defiance, because the majority MPs are now dead set not to have the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, present the 2023 budget. Indeed, they want to see his exit immediately. So like you said, while this censure motion committee was sitting, I was trying to pick information because my sources were telling me that the group of 80 who at the time spoke about asking the president to dismiss the finance minister were meeting their parliamentary leadership to firm up their decision. Only last week, before the censure motion was debated on the floor, we heard from one of their spokespersons, Dr. Nana Ayu-Epriye, MP for Efujasi Asokore, who came out there to say that they had changed their stance from the earlier position where they had met the president. The president had made a request of them to hold on to their demands until the budget was presented. They said they were no longer holding on to that. They wanted the finance minister gone and immediately, despite that they were not going to support the censure motion. So yesterday, they had some meeting with the majority leadership to, as it were, give them this new information that they have come up with. The decision is now that they are absolutely not going to give the finance minister any chance to present the budget come next week. You know, he's expected to present a budget, I think, 24th November, actually, as was announced in last week's business statement that was presented in the House. But just 2 days before that, this censure motion will be debated. But now you are hearing from these majority MPs who are now able to mobilize 18 more of their colleagues to join them. They are saying that they do not want the finance minister to present the budget. They want him gone immediately. They've taxed their leadership, that is Oseche Mensah-Bonsu, Afenyo Markin, Frank Anadompre, to communicate this new decision to the president. We know the president is not in the country. He's traveled on a private visit to the United Kingdom. He's not expected back until maybe a week's time and other things. So this decision would have to be communicated to the president, who must act immediately because the budget is expected next week. If some sort of compromise is not reached by the end of this week, there will be some challenges for the minister next week.
Kweku, before I let you go, is there anything happening in Parliament that is worth talking about?
So there are a number of issues having to do with the majority leader's takedown of Gabi Asare-Otredako. We know that he went hard on him, asking who he thinks he was and why he thought to suggest that he or Oseche Mensah-Bonsu was the one that was instigating their MPs to, as it were, pass a vote of no confidence in the minister. This morning, our expectation was that there was going to be some sort of address of the majority leader. We understand that has been stood down for some time. But what the minority, I should say, are saying that there's clear signs that the center cannot hold. There's a lot of discontentment within the NPP ranks. And so this must be dealt with. They think that this is to their benefit ultimately if there's this infighting within the Patriotic Party. But there are also a number of key questions that have been listed today. On the other paper, the health minister is expected to answer some very urgent questions on palm oil in terms of the health sector of the country. The number of questions that have also been slated for the minister to respond. So in the next hour or so, when the House resumes, these questions will be put to the minister, and he'll be expected to answer. But MPs will also be expected to give sort of their understanding and their reaction to what we saw yesterday at that vote of censure hearing.
Great. Kweku Asante, we'll leave it here. Kweku Asante is our parliamentary correspondent, giving us all the gist on what's happening in Parliament. He'll stay there for us and finish us on the very important highlights of today's parliamentary work. Well, it's now time to bring you AM Business, Ketsi EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank. Today, some wood sellers and carpenters are worried about the shortage of wood in the country. They say it's making their craft expensive.
Ghana's annual consumer inflation rose to a new 21-year high of 40.4% in October, accelerating from 37.2% in September. October inflation was highest in the category of housing, water, electricity and gas, with prices up 69.6%. Food inflation rose to 43.7% from 37.8% last month, driven higher by items such as water, milk, eggs, and sugar. Furniture, household equipment, and maintenance came second at 55.7%, and transport, including fuel, was third at 46.3%. This saw repair of chairs and table also contributing to the hike of inflation, with an 81.0% year-on-year and 5.1% month-on-month. To learn what is behind the increase in chair and table repair costs, I visited some wood sellers and carpenters. James, who has over 20 years of carpentry experience, claims that the cost of obtaining wood for mending these chairs and table as high.
To be honest with you, being in this work about the past 30 years, the situation that we are now is not good at all. Every day, day in, day out, the things, if you go to town today, tomorrow before you go, they increase. I don't understand. I ask them, they say because of the dollar. Now, as I'm speaking to you, you know right now, we cannot enjoy whatever we are doing because the materials are very expensive. So right now, if you do a set of chairs, at least 4,000, 5,000, because they have different design. You see, the materials are very expensive. That's the reason why we cannot even enjoy the work, because by the end of the day, it's hand to mouth. Because if you want to charge according to, the person will not come.
So let's say a big table or a big chair.
I deal with a chair in particular, stuffing chairs. I don't deal with tables. Mine is special for upholstery, chairs, low.
So if someone is bringing a chair for you to repair, how much do it cost?
At least if it's a 3-1, you pay 500 for repair.
Just repairing?
Repairing. The foam and the material, 500 cedis.
Other components, he claimed, are likewise pricey, and the cost keeps rising every 3 days.
Like to you, at least for the past about 2-3 months, 2 or 3 months, day in, day out. If you buy the things today, tomorrow you go. Even last week, I sent one of my boys, I went and buy the leather. For the following day, they have increased it.
Wow. So now,
I've already taken the money. So it's going to affect me. I'm complaining about this thing. The client say no. The dollar is now reasonable. I said no, master. I went to town. The person couldn't understand me. So by the end of the day, I'm the loser.
Wow. So you mean if I'm just bringing a chair for you to repair, that's 500?
500 cedis, 3-in-1 so far. 3-in-1, 500.
What about the smaller ones?
The smaller one at least 300, 250. Because the foam alone now is 183. The 3-in-1, the seat, something like this. 183 cedis. Look at this. 183 cedis. So a singlet is 61. First it was 90 cedis, but look, almost 50% times 2. So we cannot enjoy the work. You see? So we are suffering. We are suffering, to be honest with you. But this is what you learn, so there's nothing you can do. You still managing. Sometimes if you have to sleep for my workshop, I have to sleep here because the work is not good. You cannot go and come every day, transportation. So you also have boys who you are going to feed them. So, my brother, no. The situation right now is hard. It's too much. Yeah. So we are pleading to the president that he should try to do something about it.
Since 1977, Alhaji Moro has been selling wood, and his issue is with the conveyors of these logs from the hinterland. According to him, the drivers have turned to transporting cocoa because the producer price has increased by 21%. He asserts that this is causing a wood shortage.
Now, I can't tell you the reason that what I could tell you is, first, even we are loading one load in low price of money. First, we are loading each one load for, even if you have 300 Ghana, 3 million, you can load. By this time, master, if you have even 3 billion, you can't get one load. So the shortage of the wood to come from the bush. Some people have said because of water, some have said because of raining, some have said because of cocoa time, we are carrying cocoa by this time. And the prices they are selling it today to everything, everybody sell how we like it. As you like it. We have some of these 2x6. We are selling it at last week, 60 Ghana. But this, at yesterday, we have called this, always say 1 Wawa board for 110 Ghana. They said 1 2x6, while we are selling here at 60 Ghana. They say 90 Ghana. From the police, even within that is the police which are down. Sometimes if we short, we can't refuse to go there. Then we can they say that's timber market. Now they say from timber market is 90 cities. And they haven't even get some there, no some from everywhere.
Now, not to cut you, talking about 2x6, this was 60 Ghana as at last week. And today, how much is it?
90 Ghana.
Wow. Within the space of 5 days or 6 days?
Even within the space of days, 4 days.
So how much do you sell it here?
I'm still selling the one because of this is the old. I'm selling it still at the same price, still Ghana. But even people have come here, say make us sell for them. Even they take it for somewhere, then they sell it as they like, the price they like. Because of they say now everything have gone up. But me, I told them, say me the price I they sell it first. That is the price I'm selling it still. Still Ghana.
Now let's look at here.
First, rolling to up to here, and the front here. Or by then, through if it, as I told you, if you take 300 cities, it can't give. It go get even one to collect food. But right now, if you take even 3 billion, master, you can't get even one to collect. So we can no produce food like how we are producing it first. So if you get something, get some small money, you go bring 400 to 200, and we have taken our money, even put it in bush. Now over 3 months, we don't have even one load.
Let me understand this. You've paid the money to the conveyors already?
We have paid the money to the conveyors already. Even last week, they have called me say now, if you don't go, you know, go increase the price, they go send our money back to you. So they say the increasement have catches. But we don't have any work if you know this. So we can't talk, say we go withdraw our money. So we left our money for them to get them. They go get wood and they brought it for me. So we are waiting. We are still waiting even for the load to come. So we don't know where the load are coming. We take now 3 months. Now we entered the 4th month. But we don't have any business. So you can't withdraw your money and can't talk, say you go put it for different business. Because we have said this, even me, as my age 60 says, yes, I've started this work since 1975 up to now. I've been getting work, different work to different over this week.
Imam Abubakar, a large Imoros employee and son, claims that these drivers say they spend a lot of fuel moving the logs. He's urging the government and the Forestry Commission to intervene and control the operations of this sector.
Our suppliers, when we ask them, the replies they give us is due to rainfall, they do not have the access or the easy access to transport the wood to us. So it has led to the prices going up because there has been a shortage. And also, they prefer carrying cocoa, since it's a cocoa season, they prefer carrying cocoa rather than the timber. So this has also led to the shortage of the supplies or the shortage of the supplies you have been receiving, yeah.
For how long has this been happening?
It's been quite some time now, because I would say, let's say, from about 2 months now. That's what we have been hearing from our suppliers.
Now, let's look at, so if I'm to understand, it means there is a shortage right here in Accra.
Yeah, there's a shortage here in Accra. And the shortage is due to the increase in prices based on what is happening. Yeah, so it has led to the prices being going higher now. Yeah, first it used to be 75, but now it has shot up to 90 cedis. We suffer before we get the woods, and the prices are also higher. So at least when it comes, we have to adjust it so that we can get our profit. So when they come and they buy the wood, they find the prices shooting up, which will lead to their side also shooting up. They are controlling the forestry, and the taxes that are being charged by the forestry is higher. So it has also led to them not being able to produce more, and also even if they produce it, the prices are higher. The prices are very, very higher. So before you can even purchase it, it has become something that is not easy for you to purchase it and bring it here, because even the transportation also prices has gone higher. Before you transport it from Takoradi or Dam to this place is higher.
Shortage of wood seems to be the main reason why we are seeing repair of chairs and table causing or driving inflation. I could count like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Basically, it's almost 10 here. But on a normal day, you could have it to a certain height. There's a front board some few weeks ago. Let me just say last week was 80 cedis, but now 120 cedis. Now, let me take you to this. This some few days ago was 60 cedis, but now it's 90 cedis. So these are basically the reasons why repair for chairs and table seem to be a main problem, because from here all the way to the carpentry shop, that is where the repair will be done.
And if a year is a bit expensive, that it means automatically it affects what we have at the carpentry shop. For Joy Business, James Ishen.
Hey there, it's 30 minutes at the top of the hour. Thank you so much for staying here on the AM show. Now, Ghanaian students continue to choose the United States as a top destination for higher education. The 2022 Open Doors report confirms that 4,916 Ghanaian students studied at U.S. colleges and universities during the most recent academic year, that's 2021-2022. Now, this represents a 16% increase over the previous year and continues a long-term growth trend among Ghanaian students. This week, a team from the U.S. Embassy is visiting Tamale and Bolgatanga as part of the American Spaces and Education USA Roadshow. And I'm glad to say I've got Lanice Bruker, Cultural Affairs Attaché at the U.S. Embassy here in Accra, and my namesake. Do you prefer to be called Bernice or Bernice? Anyone works Bernice?
Anyone.
Local, you love that, yeah, because I chose Bernice because local people accept that better. So Bernice Afote, Education Outreach Specialist at the U.S. Embassy here in Accra, is also here with us. Good morning, ladies. Thank you for coming. It's always exciting when we have to talk about education because it's what drives employment, drives growth in nations. Let me start with you, Lanice. Just tell us more about this week's International Education Week and what it's all about and what your embassy is doing to commemorate it.
Well, thank you for having us. We're really excited. As you noted, we have a team up north and we are down here celebrating International Education Week, and the good news that's accompanying our report, as you mentioned, on Monday, it was released that we continue to be a top destination. So International Education Week really celebrates the benefits of studying in the United States and globally, culturally, all of the benefits that come along with that, not just in terms of academic, but everything else that goes along with it.
And so Education USA is celebrating this. Just tell me this roadshow you're doing in the North, what exactly are you hoping to achieve with it?
So it's we have in the past had our primary centers here in Accra and in Kumasi, and we have had these little pop-ups, so to speak, in the North. But really, we haven't been able to spend as much time as we would like to interact one-on-one with the students. And this is an opportunity for us to be able to go there, talk to the students about their specific education needs, and share more of what the U.S. Embassy is doing around the country. One of the benefits, if you can call it that, of COVID-19 is that we were able to do a lot more virtual programming. Great. And it's something that, even though our primary centers are in Accra and Kumasi, we can engage with students all over the country, including in the North, to help them in their education journey.
So it's interesting you mentioned COVID-19, and it just rang a bell. So for those of you who have hopes of studying in the US, it's not just about going there, personally. You can also take advantage of technology, and it's worth mentioning that COVID-19 opened our eyes a lot to all the opportunities technology has to offer. Let me come to you, Bernice. So a lot of students just graduated from senior high school. There are those who finished their undergrads. What qualifications does one need to access a college or university in the US?
Thank you, my namesake, and good morning to all your listeners. So for people who have just completed high school, looking for opportunities to study in the US, I know you're still waiting for your results, but this process takes time. So if you're listening to me this morning and you plan to pursue higher education in the US, this is the time. Just reach out to Education USA. If you go to the main mission website, GH for Ghana, so gh.usembassy.gov, you will find our contact. Just on that page, you'll find our contact. Reach out to us, whether you're in Accra or Kumasi, and we will take you through the steps. You need to have completed 3 years of high school. So you will need a transcript, you will need the WASI. Don't wait for the results to come in. Just start the process now, and we'll take you through the rest. It's a 5-step process, but it takes time, so just reach out to us.
And especially about getting your transcripts, because some of you will have to travel because of the way we do high school education here. So, it's just good, and beneficial if you start the process now. So, the thing about schooling abroad, the fear a lot of people have is, do I have the funds? do I have the money? Can I afford it? Does Education USA offer scholarships, or are there other scholarship programs that are attached to what Education USA offers? Let me start with you, Louise.
Yeah, so that's a great question, because that is one of the biggest concerns and often one of the biggest barriers. Now, we do not offer direct scholarships. However, we offer services and we advise the students. So when, let's say you come to our office and you're interested in studying in the United States, first we're going to have a conversation about what is it that you want to study, what type of school are you interested in, a large school, small, public, private, do you want cold weather, warm weather,
That's important.
all of those things. And then we talk about your financial situation.
Great.
What kind of funds are you able to contribute? Some people are able to pay for it outright, others partial, and others not at all. And we are able to then match them with schools in the United States that can accommodate what they're looking for. Some schools are able to, in turn, offer full scholarships for academic or sports or other things, others partial, and then there's some that, you know, they don't need it. You just match up what type of degree and program you're looking for. So that's where our services really come in. We do have some small funds for those who are really qualified and they have everything, they've got all the academics, they're able to get scholarships to the United States, to some school, and they just need a little extra help. And that's where we can help them with just a few of those extra fees. But we don't offer direct scholarships to that. We're more of a connecting them, making that networking and that match, and looking at schools in the US and trying to also attract them to the benefits of having international students studying in their institutions.
Great. Once you're talking about scholarships, Bernice, I mean, roughly, top of your mind, how much do I need? Give me the lowest and the highest. I'm sure there are people who may be watching, parents who say, I may be able to, I'm not sure what it is, but exactly what's the rough estimation of how much it will cost to study in the US?
If I try to mention figures, I probably will be
driving people away.
Right. But the truth is that the US is big. There are over 4,000 institutions, and so they also offer a very wide range of programs. We all know, for example, that if we're going to study medicine, we won't pay the same as someone going to study, another program. Somebody going to study arts, any of the design programs may be paying different from someone going for a humanity specialization. So that's how it works. But as Lani said, much as we have a lot of schools, they also offer a lot of funding options. So don't worry so much about, I know that we are in the difficult economic time, and when you're going to study in the US, of course you'll be thinking dollars.
Exactly.
But don't worry so much about that. What I can tell you is that there's a school for everyone. Whether you can pay partial amounts, or you can pay full, or you can pay anything at all. There will be just a school that is right for you.
So just make the move.
So do well to reach out.
That's the important thing. You wanted to add something?
I did. It is not without a lot of hard work. The students that go to the United States have to be really dedicated to getting that degree, and it starts here. But it does start with that conversation here with our advisors. We have excellent advisors, as we said, in Accra and in Kumasi, and they're able to guide in the right direction on what's going to be the best fit for them.
Right. Bernice, something just occurred to me. When you were talking about the qualifications, I know for other countries you need to take specific tests, language proficiency and all that. I mean, does that work for the US as well?
Yes. So the US has requirements for standardized tests, but it's not every school that requires. Some of them would only recommend. So if it's recommended, it's a plus on your application to do it. And these are all things we take our students through once they reach out to us and we start the process. But yes, they will need you to write tests at different levels. So if you're going for undergraduate, then you're looking at the SAT or the ACT, which all do the same, play the same role in the application. So you don't have to take both one or the other. Most schools require the proficiency tests from students, but it will interest you to know that most of them don't worry about it when they're dealing with Ghanaian students. We speak good English, don't we?
Yeah, we try.
And we also learn English as a subject in school. So don't worry about the proficiency. I would not say that it is not a requirement. It is, but for most schools, they exempt Ghanaian students from that.
It's not very hard.
And it also depends on the level. If you're going for undergraduate, as she mentioned, versus a master's degree or a PhD, it's going to be different. And we jokingly say that the answer to every question is it depends.
Okay.
It very much depends on the type of program, the type of institution, and the level.
Right. So as it is with education and many other things, there are deadlines attached to some of these things. So what is the deadline for somebody who's hoping to go to a school in the US for the next academic year? How fast should they be working at getting this? Let me start with you, Bernice.
Okay. Thank you again. So there are different times people can start school in the US. All schools are taking students in the fall semester, which starts in August, September. So if you're looking to start in the fall, by January, you should put in an application. A few schools have up to March deadlines. But because most of us are Ghanaians and we will need visas, we also want to be sure that we apply early enough. The schools will have ample time to review your applications, send back a decision to you. If it's yes, which we always hope to have, then you give yourself time to prepare for the visa.
Okay.
So for August intake, you want to finish by January, latest by March. For spring, which starts in January, you want to finish by October, before that January, for same reason.
Okay. So considering the time we are having this conversation, it will mean that anybody who wants to start working is looking forward to a January deadline, right?
Right.
Okay. So final words, any last thing you'd like to say? If somebody is not in Accra or Kumasi, you said you have advisors in Accra, Kumasi. How do they access? She's spoken about the website, but are there other opportunities, other avenues which people can access your services?
Yeah, thank you. So most of it right now, as we mentioned, is centered either in person in Accra or in Kumasi, but we also have pop-ups like we have this week in Tamale and in Bolgatanga, or we have student study in the U.S. fairs that will come up from time to time. And then, of course, we have the virtual options. It's great options for people that are outside of those main areas. And you can access all that information through our website. As she mentioned, it's gh.usembassy.gov. And of course, you can follow us on social media at US Embassy Ghana on all the major platforms. We also have, as a benefit of previous virtual programming, a lot of our Facebook Live sessions are still available.
Great.
So you can go back through our social media accounts and look at some of those sessions to get that information, even if it's not current. It lives on there, and you can get that information at that time.
Now, before I let you go, there's a lot of competition, other countries trying to, encourage students to come over. Why should the US be our choice?
I'm going to give it to Bernice because she studied in the U.S. So why did you decide?
So you can tell us firsthand, the benefits of studying in the US.
I wanted a world-class education. I wanted diversity. The U.S. is big, 50 states, and it offers you a lot of options. The U.S. has a liberal arts kind of education, where even if I always tell students, look, if your mother wants you to study one program, you yourself, you're interested in another, your father wants you to do another, and they're all in different dimensions. Don't try to choose one. You may offend someone. So just go into a liberal arts, explore, take different courses for some time, up to 2 years, and then you can decide. And that even opens your understanding and your perspective. So if you are going into education, you may have taken history and all that. It helps you to understand the history of education. So it gives you like a really broad perspective. So you don't go into your field of study, your major, your specialization with that narrow mindset. So US really has a lot to offer. Because it's diverse, you also tend to meet people from different walks of life. You want to become a global citizen and an international partner. So there are really countless number of reasons why you would like to choose the US. You meet faculty from all walks of life. You may be very lucky to have a faculty who is a Nobel Prize winner teach you, and you can make noise about that. So there are a lot of reasons why we want you to choose the US. And based on our Open Doors reports, you know that people are going, people are excelling. we're also sharing social media posts of success stories of our students.
Great.
So you want to check the embassy's website. We have all our social media handles on the main page. Just go and
US Embassy
feed your
Ghana.
eyes.
Yes.
Yes, on the US Embassy Ghana. Feed your eyes and remember that Education USA will be your friend if you choose to study in the US. Thank you so much.
Great, and that's Bernice Afete. She is Education Outreach Specialist at the U.S. Embassy Ghana. And just to her left is Lanise Brooke, our Cultural Affairs Attaché, U.S. Embassy Accra. And we've been talking education this morning. If you missed any part of this conversation, just get onto our Facebook page and you will also find that. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Buy 3 months or 12 months HD Plus subscription on your HD Plus decoder this football season and dial *844# *844 *8# to enter the HD Plus or Record double promo. There are 1,700 rewards to be won, including trips for 3 couples to Dubai in December, 65-inch TVs, household appliances, and many more. Promo is valid from now till the 5th of December 2022. And the most loved and exciting kids cooking show on Joy Prime, Big Chef, is finally coming to an end as we journey to the finale. Contestants have displayed their exceptional culinary skills in the last 11 weeks of the competition. We started with 14 and now we are down to the big 6. Adjoa, Amma, Fidelia, Aram, Prince and Laura. Vote for your favorite by dialing *711 *60# and follow the prompts. Who wins Big Chef Season 2? Well, I don't know. Remember, your vote makes 40%, so vote as many times as you can. Catch the finale of Big Chef on Sunday, 4th December 2022 at 5 p.m. on Joy Prime. Big Chef is kindly brought to you by Fortune Rice, Vital, Sunflower Oil, Indomie, Top Choco, Flora Tissues, Low Price Masters, Sankofa Natural Spices, City Black Tonic, and Perk Biscuits. Talking about biscuits, I think I need some tea and biscuit now. But Mapito is standing by with your social media comments. We get interactive right after this. Let me welcome Mapito and Benjamin back into the studio. Welcome, gentleman and lady.
You sound so formal.
But that's what you always do. Yeah, I'm just doing what you do. Yeah,
so
when you sit on this side of
you're
the
putting
table,
me on the spot too. Okay.
Yeah.
Just for that.
Yeah, great. So we're hoping to take a few of your comments. Fortunately, we've run out of time. We will do so hopefully tomorrow. And we would have a lot of ample time to do exactly that. I know you have a lot to say about that censure hearing. Forgive us. We'll take your comments. But Maps, you have some information on the hits of them?
Before that, what's your Old Students Association again?
Infantiman Old Girls Association.
Akosombo International?
Oh, yeah, I saw that. But you know, most of the time when we say old student...
Which one do you...
Senior.
It's difficult, yeah. Senior high school is usually. Yeah. But I really associate with AIS.
Oh,
But I mean, Infantiman is it.
Is there a reason you guys don't participate in the National Science and Math quiz?
But you know private schools don't.
Okay.
And your school is?
Private schools, but there are private schools that...
No, National Science and Math schools, no.
No private institutions?
No private institutions.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
The sun rises and all those schools.
No, they aren't private. They are government-run institutions.
Okay.
Public institution.
Okay.
All right. Well, let me tell you about the Hits FM Schools Reunion, which is powered by alumni by Enterprise Life in association with Ghana AIDS Commission, is bringing back your old school memories. You know the feeling and the nostalgic moments it commands? Well, were you a fan of Jama? Do you still remember how Gary Soakings tastes?
Of course I do. I eat Gary Soakings like...
Really?
It's one of my favorite things to
eat. Fine girl, you're eating Gary Soakings. Oh, fine girl, don't embarrass us on national television.
When we do Gary
Soakings, it's a delicacy.
You don't know. You go on. You don't know what it's going on.
I'll give you my special recipe.
Oh no, please! I don't want to. Fine girl, I don't eat Gary Soakings. But what about rap battles? Well, you can join us on the 26th of November at the Al Waq Stadium, and let's have some mad fun rapping our various schools as we reminisce our high school days. Now, there's going to be a lot of activities, and you don't want to miss this twice-in-a-lifetime experience. You know, Stone Boy, Kwame Eugene, and Keche will also be repping their schools with mind-blowing performances. It's FM's Schools Reunion. Come rep your school in grand style. It's FM's School Reunion, powered by alumni by Enterprise Live. Enterprise, the advantage is proudly brought to you by 10 bets for the Better Cover Our Lives Simplified VIP Magnetic Perfume from Dreams Cosmetics and Alhaji Vision Herbal Clinic, the Eye Doctor, No Surgery, and the Ghana AIDS Commission.
Right.
That's interesting. I met Keche somewhere just a few weeks ago. I'll leave that one for...
And before we go, we have a few birthday wishes. Happy birthday to Benjamin Akakpo, Senior Officer, Terrorism Unit of Ghana Customs Service. God richly bless and keep you. Have a super day. This is from Benjamin Akakpo. And Winston Amwa and our very own Dorian Aviu. Happy birthday to you guys. Stay blessed. I'm told we have a few comments on our interview, Benjamin's interview with Nyaho Tamaklu. And this is from Godfred, who says, I admire
the station.
Okay, the
statesman.
He's such a courageous statesman of high repute. God bless your efforts and contribution to the nation. Eric says, congratulations to His Excellency Nanado for sacking Charles Edu Boahin. All right, he's disgraced the NPP instead of him to work hard for the NPP to break the 8. He's doing unnecessary things, he says. And okay, this man has shown honesty, and he's a true statesman. Whatever rot KOA is sitting on shall be uncovered in due time. He can't remain in power forever. And Empress Yasmin is also commenting on Dr. Nyaho Tamaklu's comments on journalists. She says our Ghanaian journalists are stomach journalists. Most of them are also scared. And let me end with Bento Charles, who says this is the kind of man we want to lead this country. All right. So talking about that one about Charles Edu, we know that the special prosecutor has started some work in that regard. Dr. Nyaho Tamaklu has something to say about the special prosecutor talking about what work he's done. Look, if you didn't watch that interview, you should watch it. It's online. Benjamin Akakpo speaking to Dr. Nyaho Tamaklu, and it's a good one. You should watch it. But that'll be all from us today. Thank you so much for making time to join us. Do I see Samuel Kojo Brace? Is he trying to get us out of the studio? Yes. It's time for us to JoyNews Desk. Yes. What if we decided not to go? What would he do? Time us up. Or else there'll be a vote of censure against you. All right, guys. See you tomorrow.